My girlfriend literally broke up with me just to test my reaction, as she literally came back to me saying that she's disappointed that I didn't fight to stay with her and that she expects me to get back together with her because all of this was just a test. But right now, I'm honestly not willing to do that because my heart is completely broken. I love this girl and I really wanted things to work out, but now I just don't trust her. And at this point, I don't really know what to do. Here's what's going on. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, so a few days ago, my ex-girlfriend contacted me out of nowhere, and honestly, I really wish I hadn't answered the phone. I'm a 22-year-old male and she's 20 years old, and we dated for about 8 months. Now, as far as I knew, things were going well. We had our disagreements like any other couple, but nothing that made me think we were about to break up. A few weeks ago, she suddenly sent me a message saying that she didn't think our relationship was working out anymore. She said she needed time to focus on herself and that I was too available to her. Now, that last part really confused me, but I didn't argue. I was hurt, obviously, because I genuinely cared about her, and I thought we were in a good place. But she made her decision, so I told her I respected it and I gave her the space that she asked for. I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't bombard her with messages. I didn't try to make her jealous or immediately start dating someone else. I just tried to move on. Now, the first week was honestly rough. I kept replaying everything in my head over and over again, wondering what I might have done wrong. Eventually, I started accepting that sometimes relationships end even when one person doesn't want them to. Then, completely out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked me if we could talk because she missed me. Now, I agreed because I still had feelings for her, and stupidly, part of me hoped that we might be able to work things out. But during the conversation, she dropped the bombshell. Apparently, she never actually wanted to break up with me. According to her, the breakup was a test. She said she wanted to see whether I would fight for her and prove how much I cared. She told me that when I accepted the breakup, instead of begging her to reconsider, it made her realize, oh, I just didn't love her enough. And when she said this, I genuinely thought she was joking. I reminded her that she was the one who told me she wanted to end the relationship. She said she needed space, and I gave her exactly that. I didn't understand why respecting her decision was somehow proof that I didn't care. And then she told me that she had expected me to chase her. She apparently thought I would send her paragraphs of messages, and that I would show up at her house and beg for another chance, and keep trying until she finally agreed to take me back. But instead, I just accepted the breakup. She said that was what made her fail the test, and at that point, I was furious. I told her that relationships aren't supposed to be psychological experiments where one person secretly creates a breakup just to measure how the other person will suffer. She then said I was being too serious, and that she only did it because she wanted reassurance that I was committed. But I told her that if she wanted reassurance, she could have communicated that instead of intentionally breaking my heart. But then she said something that really bothered me. She told me that now that I knew it had been a test, I had another chance to prove myself by agreeing to get back together again and showing her that I was willing to fight for the relationship. But you know what? I straight up said no. She then got angry and called me cold, and she said I had apparently moved on way too quickly, and that if I really loved her, I wouldn't be able to turn her down so easily. I then told her that she doesn't get to break up with me, watch me accept it, and then decide that the breakup wasn't real just because she didn't like my reaction. She then started crying and told me I was punishing her for trying to protect our relationship, but I told her I wasn't punishing her. I was simply refusing to participate in this kind of relationship. She then called me selfish and said I had thrown away 8 months because of one stupid mistake, but I told her the problem wasn't the breakup itself. It was that she deliberately manipulated me. She watched me struggle with the breakup and then expected me to reward her by getting back together. Well, needless to say, we haven't spoken since. Some of my friends think that I was too harsh and that she clearly just wanted reassurance because she was scared of losing me, and they really think I should consider giving her another chance because she admitted she was wrong. But holy crap, I don't see it that way. I love this girl, and that's exactly why the breakup hurt so much. But I can't understand how I'm supposed to trust someone who intentionally ended our relationship just to then see how devastated I would be. So seriously, am I the jerk for being furious and like refusing to take her back? Am I really in the wrong? Because I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, holy crap, do yourself a favor and block this lady. Imagine being in a stable, healthy relationship for 8 months and then suddenly have the brilliant idea of saying, I need to test my boyfriend. I need to see if he's loyal. Let's break up with him just to shake things up and see if he comes crawling back. Like, bro, what are we on about? That is not normal behavior. You don't just do that to someone and expect them to like, oh yeah, baby, you can come back. We could be a couple again, baby. There's no hard feelings. Like, no, I've got nothing but hard feelings. What you did is weird. She literally put you through emotional turmoil for nothing. Just for her weird little experiment of like, is he gonna come crawling back? I don't see all the text messages I was expecting. He clearly doesn't care about me. And it's like, dude, you broke up with him. I would be going through the grieving process of the relationship as well. Also, there's like a part of me, and there's no proof of this, so I can't prove it, and it's all a hunch, honestly. basically, but I kind of think that she was cheating on you and she went to the other guy and the other guy did not accept her. So she's now spinning this by being like, oh yeah, I was testing you. But I'm thinking like the guy on the side clearly didn't work out and it wasn't like, you know, a grass is greener on the other side situation. And she's realizing, oh crap, I ruined my relationship. Time to pretend like this was a test. Again, no proof, literally just a hunch, because like the way she's acting and the way she was like, oh, I need to focus on myself. Like that feels like a quote on a crappy Instagram inspirational page. Meanwhile, she's quoting it as if it means anything, which it doesn't. So no, dude, I think you dodged a train with this lady. You now know her true colors. You've seen them in vivid display, and her trying to run it back and act like this is not that big of a deal is just not good in my opinion. Because if she can do this once on a relationship, then trust me, she could do this again. And I don't know about the original poster, but personally, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's just going to play games. That sounds obnoxious. I would not want to put up with that. And to the original poster, I don't think you should put up with that either. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and you too can achieve perfection, because Alistair has found the perfect number in which you can comment, because they comment at 8th. Like that's like the perfect algorithm, the perfect like sweet spot for you to be like, oh yeah, this is where perfection lies. It's not about being 1st or 69th or even 67th. Please don't leave that number in the comments. It's about being 8th, baby. And that's exactly what Alistair did. And you know what? I'm proud of you and keep it up. You've reached nirvana and we're all jealous. Guys, if you also want to have the perfect run in life, then please submit your stories at AmITheJerk.com/submit. Not only will you achieve perfection in life, but also it's the best place on the internet to share your story and give it a voice, man. I would love to narrate what you got to say, so please send it our way. But without further delay, let's get back to the video and on to the next delicious story. My girlfriend has given me an ultimatum where she's saying that if I go and pursue my master's degree in Germany, she will break up with me, putting me in a situation where I really don't know what to do because I've worked hard to get into this program, and to just simply walk away from it suddenly seems so counterintuitive because right now I feel incredibly lost. Here's what's happening. Okay, for starters, I'm a 27-year-old male, and after almost a year of effort, I finally got admitted to a master's program in Germany, and this definitely was not something that I decided overnight. Over the last year, I prepared my application, I got my education loan sanctioned, I opened up a blocked account, I paid my tuition fees, I enrolled at the university, I also applied for my visa, and I'm currently waiting on it. And if everything goes well, I'll be leaving in October. Now, the reason I'm going isn't just for a degree. I feel like I have bigger dreams than the life I'm currently living. Like, I don't just want a comfortable job. I want to work on meaningful engineering problems, I want to contribute to clean energy, and hopefully build something that genuinely matters one day. It may sound naive, but I've always wanted to do work that puts a dent in the universe. But the real problem here is my relationship. My girlfriend, who's 26, is pursuing psychology, and she's been struggling into getting into like a clinical psychology program. She has worked hard, she's faced setbacks, and her career path has been emotionally exhausting as well. She wants to become a practicing psychologist, and I know how much that dream really means to her. We've talked about a future together, and I've told her how I want to marry her. I've also planned my finances around clearing my education loan after graduation, just so we can start our lives together. But now she has given me an ultimatum. She says that if I go to Germany, we are breaking up. She says long distance isn't that easy, and honestly, she's right. Like, it really isn't. But here's the thing, I don't feel like I'm choosing Germany over her. I really feel like I'm choosing an opportunity that I've spent months working towards, hoping that this will help me build a better future for the both of us. At the same time, though, I totally understand her fear. 2 years is a long time, and people can change. Like, even long distance relationships fail. I can't honestly promise her that everything will be easy because I just know that it won't. I love her, and the thought of losing her really hurts. But I also know that if I walk away from this opportunity after everything I've invested, I'm afraid I'll spend years wondering what could have been. So has anybody ever been in this kind of situation before? And if you were in my position, would you be going to Germany? If you've made a long distance relationship work, or if it just doesn't work at all, what did you learn from that situation? What should I do? Okay, I've never had like a long distance relationship in this way before, but I know for a fact that her being like, oh, I can't believe you're going to Germany. If you go to Germany, we're breaking up. Like, that in and of itself is super toxic and not okay in my opinion. Because seriously, what is she saying right now, dude? This is your career on the line. You're trying to get your life together and actually have some kind of future together. And she's sitting there trying to be like, oh wow, you're choosing Germany over me? I can't believe you. Like, dude, that is so unbelievably selfish. I can't believe she's acting like that. So personally, and I can only speak for myself, so please just do what you feel like you should do. But I would definitely be like, okay, I'm definitely going to Germany. I'm not going to sacrifice my career opportunities just so you could be happy. Like, no, that seems really counterintuitive. supportive, and if you actually loved me, you would be encouraging me to go. So that's personally what I would do, but please leave a comment down below if you're listening. What would you do in this situation? Would you stay behind and sacrifice this opportunity in Germany to like be with your girlfriend and maintain the relationship? Or would you be like, nah, screw that, I'm going to Germany, nothing's stopping me from going there? Let me know down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not giving my coworker credit for my idea? Because she literally just stole credit from me and said that an idea I came up with was actually hers, putting me in a situation where I'm very pissed off and very annoyed. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I was in a meeting with my boss last week that also consisted of my coworker, who I will call Sarah for the sake of the story. We were brainstorming solutions for a problem we've been having, and I suggested an idea that I thought was pretty good. Sarah didn't say much during the meeting, but later in the week, my boss sent an email to the whole team. He said, hey, great idea from Sarah about the new process. We're going to implement it now. And when I read that, I was really confused. Like, this was my idea. I said it in the meeting and Sarah just nodded along. I then went to my boss and I said, actually, that idea came from me. I mentioned it in the meeting. He then said to me, oh, well, Sarah told me that it was her idea. She said that she came up with it. I then went to Sarah and I said, you told our boss my idea was yours? And she said, well, it was a team effort. We were brainstorming together. I then replied back and said, well, we were, but I said it and you just sat there. She then said to me, oh, you're being petty. It's about the team, not about who gets the credit. But I said back to her, well, it matters to me. I mean, I want credit for my work. And now because of that, she's mad at me and says I'm making things awkward. My boss said he doesn't care who came up with it as long as it gets done, but I feel like I shouldn't have to like fight for credit for my own idea. But maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it should be. So seriously, am I the jerk here for telling the boss the idea was mine? Because right now I'm not sure if I crossed a line. No, you're not the jerk, because I personally love it when people try this whole like, oh, we were working as a team bullcrap, because Sarah's entire argument could easily be twisted against her. Like seriously, why was Sarah so determined to claim credit for this, only to then act like, oh, you're being petty for wanting credit for your idea? Because Sarah wasn't contributing during that meeting. She wasn't doing anything valuable. She was sitting there and nodding along just like anybody else. But once a good idea comes up, oh yeah, then I'm gonna take credit. We were brainstorming together. I mean, it's no big deal, right? Well, if it's no big deal, then you should have no problem giving credit to the person who actually said it. Like, what are we talking about? Like, literally everything she said is used against her. She's the one being petty. She's not thinking about the team, and she's the one who wants credit for it. That's why she took credit in the first place. Like, dude, she's being a hypocrite. So no, you're not the jerk. You deserve credit for your idea. This is not something that Sarah came up with. This was your idea. And the fact that she stole it and is now getting mad at you for like getting upset about stealing it, that speaks volumes to the type of person that Sarah is, and that would be like everything I would need to know about her as a coworker. Am I the jerk for the way I responded to a surprise birthday party that I literally said I didn't want? Because my girlfriend's upset with me even though I very clearly communicated that this is not something I want to participate in. And now at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday more than a month ago, and I told her I don't really care for birthdays. I don't want to do anything, and honestly, maybe we just have like a low-key, quiet hangout. Then last week, she started asking me for friends' contact information, and when I asked her why, she wouldn't tell me and just kept saying it's a surprise. So I just straight up said no to giving her my friend's contact information, and in no uncertain manner that I do not want a surprise party or any party for that matter. In fact, we even had an argument in June about my absolute dislike of surprises. Well, she went forward with her plan anyways. I kept asking what we were doing, and she just kept saying it's a surprise and it's a reservation, so okay, maybe it's like dinner. But no, the second I saw where we were going, I knew we were going to a friend's house for a surprise party. She tried to make me wear a blindfold, but I told her I will get out of the car and go home if she kept pushing me. Because here's the thing, a dinner commitment is like less than 2 hours, but a party commitment is over 4 hours easily. But you know what? I showed up, I smiled, I shook hands, I did the rounds of greetings, I participated in a round of activities for like an hour and a half or so, and then I just found a quiet place and I sat for the rest of the party completely out of the way. And just as I predicted, the party was 4 hours long. Well, needless to say, she was mad. I totally get that she wanted to do something nice, but the way I see it, there was a very clear and communicated line in the sand that transitioned it from doing something nice to then suddenly shoving something down someone's throat they didn't want and expecting them to be grateful for it. So am I the jerk in this situation for being upset about this? Like, did I cross a line? Because I really don't know what to do anymore. No, I think this is like so dumb in my opinion, because like you really did make it clear like, hey, I don't want a surprise party. I don't want to surprise anything. Like, please don't do this to me. And I really don't think that's like unreasonable at all. You made it very clear, you communicated it to her, and she still just completely ignored it. And it makes me believe like, oh, she didn't throw this party for you. She probably threw the party for herself and like, I don't know, imaginary social points of like, oh, look at how good of a girlfriend I am. But it's like, dude, you didn't want this. But I will say, even though you were probably super frustrated and like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here, you still played along and you did your best to like smile and shake hands and like greet people. Like you really did the best you could to like play it off and just be amicable. So in my opinion, there's no reason for her to be upset. You literally didn't want this. So no, you didn't overreact. I think you did the right thing here. And if she's still mad that you didn't want this party that you very clearly communicated that you don't want, then that's on her and not on you. Am I the jerk for wanting to quit sparring at boxing, even though my parents won't let me quit? Because right now I've kind of lost all passion for boxing and I just don't know what else to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for starters, I'm a 13-year-old male and I've boxed for a year and a half. And I used to absolutely love it. I couldn't wait to train, I love sparring, and honestly, boxing was one of my favorite passions. But after taking about a 6-month break, something changed. I came back hoping it would be the same, but it never was. I still like watching boxing and learning about it, but when I actually train or spar, I just feel empty. The best way I can describe it is that I used to feel like a forest fire and now I just feel like white ash. When I spar, I mentally check out and just want it to be over with. Because I'm not fully focused, I get hit more than I used to. I also don't think that it's fair to my sparring partners because they're giving me their best, while I don't even feel like I can honestly give them mine. I've tried training more, even taking breaks, and just hoping the passion would come back, but it hasn't. My dad says that I'm just quitting because things got hard, but that's not how I see it. I've kept showing up for months even though I've lost my love for sparring. My mom pays me $10 every time I spar and said that she'd pay me $50 just to compete and another $50 if I won. But you know what? The money just doesn't change how I feel. If my parents let me stop sparring, I'd still train and work out to stay in shape, but I don't want to keep sparring when my heart just isn't in it. So in summary, I still enjoy boxing as exercise and I like watching and learning about it, but I don't think I'm in the right headspace for sparring anymore. I've tried to get my passion back for months, but it hasn't returned, and I don't think it's fair to my sparring partners if I can't give them my full effort. So I really need to know, like, am I the jerk for wanting to quit sparring? Because I just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, to the original poster, first off, no, you're not the jerk for wanting to quit. Like, you clearly know what you like and don't like about the sport, and getting hit in the face is probably not part of it. And it's like, dude, I don't blame you. Because, dude, you're only 13 years old. You've got plenty of time to figure out what you really enjoy. And so after 6 months off, you're coming back into it and you're getting hit a lot, and it's like, dude, I'm not enjoying this at all. This is really rough, this is hard on my body, and I'm just not enjoying it. And also, if your parents are really trying to sit there and be like, oh, you can't quit boxing, I'm sorry, but you have to do it. Like, I don't know about anyone else, but that seems really weird in my opinion. And it's like super unfair too, if you think about it. So no, dude, you're still very young. You've got a lot of time to figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And I think if you want to take a step away from sparring, that in my opinion is completely fine. And that doesn't make you the jerk. An entitled Karen freaks out on her kid's birthday as she slaps my manager in the back of the head, all because we didn't have the ice cream that she wanted. But in a strange twist of events, the following year, this lady finally gets arrested, as she quite literally goes to another store and drop kicks a birthday cake that she said wasn't good enough, resulting in many years of probation and many hours of community service. Here's basically how it went down. Okay, so this story is from just a little bit over like 10 years ago, back in like basically 2016, when I was working my first job in between high school and my freshman year of college. I'd gotten a job at an ice cream shop that was like semi-famous in my local area, and for reference, all of their stuff was handmade. So it was pretty well known that the store had whatever flavors of ice cream that they happened to have on hand, and that getting a particular flavor for like a party or something like that might require you to place an order a week or two in advance just to make sure we have it. Well, on the second day of me working in the store, we had an entitled mom come in and try to order a bunch of different flavors of ice cream for her son's birthday party that day. Unfortunately, we were out of her son's favorite flavor on the day that she came in to order her stuff, and we informed her that unfortunately, due to all of our ice cream being handmade, we only have the flavors that we have, and we can't really give her any more of the fudge that she was really looking forward to having. And this is not a case where we're like hiding something in the back, like we don't really do that, and that's not really a thing. But regardless, we really do try our best to like accommodate her order, all the way up until she swears at my manager, who at that time is literally in the process of training me. And at this point, my manager grabs the ice cream that I'm in the process of scooping for her out of my hands and just straight up tells her, hey, if that's your attitude, then you're not going to get any ice cream today. Well, in response to that, the entitled mother literally reaches over the counter and slaps my manager in the back of the head and then proceeds to bolt out of the door. We got her license plate number at the time, but the cops aren't really able to follow up on it. Well, that is until like 1 year later, when she goes into a prominent Midwest grocery store and orders a Batman vs. Superman themed cake for her kid's next birthday party. Upon arriving to pick up the cake, she decides that it's insufficient sufficiently themed, and then proceeds to go around behind the bakery counter, grab the cake, and dropkick it across the store, demanding that they make her a better one. And this is what finally gets her arrested for disorderly conduct, and as the cops are booking her in, our complaint from a year ago finally gets flagged in their system. And you know what? It turns out that she had been notorious around the local area for literally pulling weird crap like this around her son's birthday every single year. Now, because we had made a complaint against her a year ago though, she ended up getting sentenced fairly harshly. She got 2 years of probation and 300 hours of community service. And you know what? Nobody's ever heard a peep from her ever since, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Dude, that is some crazy behavior. Like, this is what happens when you decide, oh, I'm gonna make all the wrong choices in life. Like, are you kidding me? Slapping someone in the back of the head and then running out the door? What are you, 12? Are you kidding me right now? That is crazy, dude. And this isn't even mentioning her going behind the bakery and drop kicking a cake across the store. Dude, I wish I could have been there to see that happen because I would have happily filmed it. That would have been my viral moment 10 years ago. That would have been amazing. Now you, dear audience, I know for a fact you guys are well-adjusted, amazing human beings. I mean, just look at the comment section. We're all talking about this stuff and we're civil and everything's going well and it's all completely fine. So I think you and I can both agree, like, what in the world went wrong in this lady's life to suddenly go to a place where she's drop kicking cakes in the back of a bakery? Like, don't get me wrong, I totally understand why Britney Spears shaved her head back in like, what, 2007? The older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, I would do that. I totally understand that. But you've got to be like a superhero level of crazy where it's like, oh yeah, not only am I going to shave my head and like throw umbrellas at paparazzi, I'm also going to start going after ice cream makers and bakers. They're going to get it. All for my precious little boy's special day. Like, dude, I don't know what happened, but man, something clearly went wrong. It makes me wonder, like, lady, who hurt you? Who do we need to talk to? Like, good lord. Hug your parents and say you're sorry because holy crap, they probably went through a nightmare raising you. But what would you do if you were in this situation? Like, what if you were a customer watching this happen? Or what if you were the manager or the baker who's like, okay, there goes my cake across the Walmart. Let me know down below in the comments what your plan of action would be. Would you run out the store or would you be like, wait a second, I need to film this? Or would you be the only adult in the room and be like, I'm gonna call the cops, I'm getting out of here. You know, while the rest of us are like sitting there with our phones being like, this is gonna be great for Am I the Jerk? Leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. My entitled neighbors steal our fence while we are away on a road trip. And after months of dealing with their obnoxious behavior, we simply can't take it anymore, as this truly is the final straw. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. While the title probably explains most of this, I'm honestly fuming right now, so I really need to get this off my chest. So we've had issues with our attached neighbors from the moment we bought our house. Originally, it was just a 60-year-old woman and her 18-year-old grandson. The day we moved in, we tried to make small talk and introduce ourselves, and the woman was dropping hints that the old owners used to bake her goodies all the time, and she really missed getting those. She was kind of insinuating that we should be like them because she deserves to be treated like a princess. The grandson introduced himself as the worst person in town. I mean, honestly, what an intro. So afterwards, we were just trying to keep a friendly distance and stay out of their way, when suddenly, after about a week of living here, they began screaming at odd hours, they started blasting music and banging on the walls. The police were at their house for domestic disputes monthly due to the woman calling the cops on her grandson. We've lived here for over 2 years now, fixing up our house and making it beautiful, and adding value to it overall. Up to this point, we just let them have their problems, because it's not like we have kids to worry about protecting. It's just my partner and I in our mid-20s. Fast forward to last month, one evening after it got dark, we heard what we thought were firearm shots right in our backyard. Mind you, we live in a downtown suburban borough with an older person facility right behind our house, so we were a little bit concerned. We have cameras that we installed just to be safe, so we checked them. The grandson and his friends were sitting in their yard talking about firing another round and that they're just like fireworks and all this other stuff. Unfortunately, it was dark and we couldn't see them firing things off, but the camera picked up the sound of them firing off 9 more rounds, so we naturally called the police. The kids then left and the cops couldn't prove that anyone was on the premises with a firearm, so they had to let it go. In the beginning of August, the woman decided to let her daughter, a sister-in-law, and their children move in with them for who knows what reason. Before this, they only had come to visit on holidays, and one time they left their infant child on the street, all in a carrier, for over half an hour, until I knocked on the door and let them know that she was out there. I mean, none of my business. But from there on, the screaming and yelling got worse, and this time with crying kids in the mix. I had half a mind to call CPS, but I've heard the awful things that happen to kids in the system, so I simply couldn't bring myself to do it. This month, we were fortunate enough to go on a road trip to see some cool places and visit family. We left at the end end of August, and we were checking our cameras when we had service, which honestly was not much. One day we get a call from our unattached neighbor saying that our attached neighbors were building a really ugly shed with spare planks from who knows where. We tried not to worry too much because up to this point, their awful shed wasn't our problem other than an eyesore in the neighborhood. We just enjoyed the rest of our trip and just let it go, occasionally checking to make sure they weren't in our yard or anything like that since it's nicely fenced in and gated. We didn't catch anything on the camera other than them building their awful shed. We arrived home a few hours ago just to find out that these entitled jerks had dug out and stole part of our fence. And they did this just to create a back fence and a gate for their yard. This left huge holes in our back parking area that my partner almost tripped and fell into. They also tied into our fence incorrectly, pulling our fence lopsided and loose, basically damaging it. Unfortunately, our camera didn't catch them taking our fence. They were just in our yard for maybe one frame, and then they were in theirs the next. We want to press charges, but we aren't sure how to go about doing it. We checked our seller's disclosure, stating that the previous owners of the house had put the fence in, so we know it was our fence that they took. I'm so livid, and I know yelling won't fix anything, but how can you be so entitled that you can't even buy your own chain link fence, but instead steal your neighbors when they aren't even home? I'm honestly so sick of these people, and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, that is insane. Imagine going on some kind of vacation or just leaving your house, and then suddenly these weirdos are being like, yeah, we're gonna steal your fence. And by the way, we're gonna make all this noise. Like, that's honestly insane to me, and that's so inappropriate. Like, first of all, they were awful neighbors to begin with, and you literally did everything you could to just ignore it. But at this point, they seriously have crossed a line. So if I was in your shoes, I would be calling the police, I would be filing a report, and I would disconnect any fence they tried to tie into your fence post. Like, you have proof that that fence was there before you moved in. There is literally written proof that you had that fence on your side of your property. And the fact that these people literally just dug it up and put it on their side is honestly atrocious. Plus, they're firing firearms in the backyard. Like, seriously, these people are bad. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would be going full tilt in reporting these people. There's no way on earth I'm putting up with that. There's no way I'm gonna sit there and allow these people to steal from me, and I'm absolutely not gonna put up with that noise any longer. And in my opinion, I think it's time for you to put your foot down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend acted like an entitled Karen this afternoon after he found out that they didn't have a specific product he wanted at the store we were shopping at, and I've never been more embarrassed in my life, and I now seriously don't know what to do. So I went with my boyfriend to the shopping mall to go have some lunch. He is about to go through a religious process that requires a lot of time away from people, including me, so I'm not going to be able to see him for about 3 weeks. I decided to take him there because I wanted to give him a special lunch before he goes through the process. After we had lunch, we were going outside to smoke a cigarette, and he said he wanted another lip gloss because he lost his. I said no because he just bought 3 of them, and people either take it from him or he loses it. As a side note, he is very concerned about his looks and he does like beauty products, which is fine by me. Anyways, while he was smoking, I snuck inside and bought him the lip gloss that he wanted. It was the same brand and everything. However, when he opened it, he found it was not colored, just a transparent lip gloss, and he likes to wear the pinkish one. It's still transparent, but just a slight shade of pink. I went back into the store to trade it, which was okay, but the lady told me that they were out of pink lip gloss. When I returned to him, he immediately showed an attitude and then went inside. He walked to the store and asked the lady for the pink lip gloss, to which she replied that they were out of it, and completed the conversation by saying, well, if you want one, it has to be this one. He felt extremely disrespected by that and asked for a refund because he didn't want that lip gloss, and it was just because of the way that she said it. They went on for a short discussion about refunds being in the customer's code, and eventually they called the manager. I couldn't say anything while he was doing it because I felt extremely embarrassed, and I actually wanted the refund because what he was saying was right, but just not the way that he was saying it. In the end, after about 10 minutes of debating with the manager, who even offered to call another store and ask them to deliver the pink lip gloss if they had it to our house, he then gave up and took the transparent one instead. When we went out, he noticed that I wasn't as thrilled as he was by fussing about it, and said he regretted it because he was willing to keep it if the girl didn't respond to him in the way that she did. I let out my thoughts on it of him being right in what he said, but just not in the way that he acted, and he regretted it for a couple of minutes. I had never seen this side of him, and I'm afraid of it now because I'm am not the kind of person who goes off about things like this. I like to keep my temper and try to solve it as politely as possible, and try to be lovely to people who are just doing their jobs. I honestly hope it doesn't happen again, and at least with the upcoming future, as well as him going away for religious reasons, I know that for 3 weeks this won't be happening anytime soon. Yeah, the way your boyfriend was acting was really inappropriate. There was no reason to freak out on someone just trying to do their job. I'm a big fan of treating customer service agents with respect, especially if they're being respectful in the first place. Like, if they're rude, that's a whole different subject, but it sounds like the person in this story was not being rude. So yeah, the way your boyfriend acted was really inappropriate. There was no reason for him to freak out like that. They just didn't have the product that he wanted, and honestly, that just kind of happens sometimes. And hopefully these 3 weeks away for religious reasons will help clear his head, and he can hopefully come back with a better attitude. Because trust me, I totally understand what it's like to be on the sidelines of when someone's freaking out in public, and that is never a good feeling to watch that happen, especially from a loved one. And hopefully in the future that never happens ever again. My entitled manager demands that I stuff products on our shelves, despite the fact that she trained me differently when I was first hired. And after dealing with this for so many nights stocking shelves, I decided to maliciously comply and got back at her in a really funny way. Here's what happened. I worked at a store over 20 years ago doing midnight stocking. I did my job so well, I usually helped the 2 other employees finish up theirs. The head store manager didn't like my mother, who used to work there, so needless to say, I got pushed hard. I did my job though. I never put items in the wrong spots just to make them fit. In fact, that was a mortal sin in my opinion. That is, until the first night of 3 pallets of socks. I did my job, filled in where I could, no stuffing them in, then, as usual, pulled the remaining back into the stock room. The next night, I got the socks again. I was told, "You did not try hard enough, these socks will fit. I want them out of my stock room." So I again filled in where I could, not mixing the products up, pulling the remaining in the back, and labeled them as not fitting with 1 note. That way she would know that I did them right. So 3 pallets down and 1.5 already. So obviously I did my job, right? Nope. Night 3 comes around and I have socks again. She leaves a note again saying, "You didn't try hard enough, just do your job and make them fit." So at that point, after being so annoyed, I decided to maliciously comply. I refused to just jam them wherever. My job states to not put any items in an empty old spot, which could anger a customer as the prices and styles are slightly different. So I neatly set out as many as possible. Then I proceeded to match all the same boxes of socks, stack them neatly on the pallet, and write the barcode on every box. Then add a note saying, "Dear manager, I did the best I could. The only way to make them fit is to cram them in and mix all the products up, which you told me at orientation is a sin. So please, manager, if you can find a way to make them fit and do my job properly, please let me know." Fast forward, and guess who didn't have any socks the next night? That's right, it was me, and boy was I happy. I was also told she was rather angry. I called her nicely on her own rules. The pallet, yes, I got it down to 1 the right way, and it sat for 3 months in the stock room. There is never enough room on the shelf. I guess they just didn't sell very well, and they ordered way too many. But none of that's my problem, as I got back in a really fun way. Yeah, your manager's being really weird. If they're gonna train you in one specific way and be like, "Okay, don't cram the products in the back. That's a mortal sin, don't do it," and then try and turn around and be like, "Okay, you need to stuff these socks everywhere." That, in my opinion, is really poor management, and it shows they're just looking for results instead of doing it the right way. So if I was in the original poster's shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. This lady was being weird. There's no reason for her to act that way, and honestly, it's an hourly job stocking shelves. It's really not that big of a deal, and there's no point in getting bent out of shape by a bunch of stupid socks. Am I the jerk for canceling on dog sitting for my friend after my aunt had a stroke, causing my entire family to come into town? Here's what happened. So I agreed to house sit and dog sit for a friend. She asked me to move my family, namely myself, my husband, and my son, to her house for 4 days. I had to fly on a work trip the day before, and when I landed, I drove straight to her house. My husband that morning packed all of our stuff, dropped our dog off at my parents' house, and met me at their house. I got there, and there were 4 full pages of details for the dogs. When they eat, when they walk, and all this other stuff. And that was honestly fine. Got it. No problem. They also get 8.5 pH water and can't have any other water, which is like, okay, I could do that. The dogs are also really anxious, hence why I couldn't bring my own dog. I get off the plane and I take a nap with the dogs. My husband arrives and we take them on a walk. Shortly afterwards, I get a call from my dad saying that my aunt had a stroke and my other aunts are driving from Mexico, which is about 2 hours from us, house, and they need to stay at my house. He is going to house some family, and I will house some as well. And honestly, that's standard for family visits from Mexico for my family. We house them and drive them as they are elderly and they don't live in this country. I call my friend and I tell her the situation, and that my only solution is that I bring her dogs to my house. She is apprehensive, but she does agree. She tells me to keep her updated as much as possible. They need to sleep in my room and all these other pre-requirements. I say to her, that's fine. Well, one of the dogs sleeps on my bed and I got zero sleep because I've got the family situation going on and I'm worried about my dog at my parents' house, as my dog can be an escape artist at times. In the morning, I'm tending to my child and my aunt while my husband walks the dogs. One of the dogs won't go to the bathroom straight up, and neither dogs will really eat at all. My friend says that she was scared that this would happen because they are anxious. Now, at this point, I'm starting to snap with all of this on my plate. My son, who misses me from my work trip, is being ignored while I tend to all of this, and I'm running on very little sleep. My aunts need rides and I have to coordinate the rally around a sick aunt. I reach out and I tell my friend again the situation, and that I really need help finding a solution. Can someone else watch the dogs at their house? Can she come home or something like that? For context, she's a flight attendant on call in another city, but doesn't have any trips. She says there's one, but she can't call out, and her mom is upset at me. I say, okay, what about a cousin who lives 2 blocks away? But she says, nope, she has dogs of her own and she doesn't like to leave them. At this point, I'm getting increasingly frustrated. I feel torn because I agreed to this responsibility, but I'm getting frustrated with her lack of proactiveness in helping me find some kind of solution. Mind you, they have a large house with a lawn and everything, but it's not good enough if they are simply fed and walked while they are away. Someone needs to be with them 24/7. They are healthy, but they are very anxious, I guess. She is telling me that it's messed up that they will have to be alone and that I am abandoning them. Again, I remind her that they are still with me. They're being fed and they're being walked and they are loved, all while also still being cared for. But we need to start brainstorming for some kind of solution. At one point, I snap so badly at my son, I'm bawling in my room because I know it's not his fault, but I'm honestly losing my mind in all the chaos. Now, I'm sure that this friendship will be over after this. She told me to drop the dogs off and she has to figure it out. Again, I know I agreed to all of this, and I'm not taking it out on the dogs one bit. I mean, they are really sweet, but I'm left feeling like these dogs are so anxious because they have been treated like human babies their entire lives. I've even noticed a correlation between my anxious friends having extremely anxious dogs. I mean, the 4 pages they typed up was all about the dogs, and not one excerpt was about how the Wi-Fi worked, or even where the towels were stored, or even encouraging us to put food in certain places, or even giving us money for food. There was literally nothing. I'm guessing she won't pay me because I didn't complete it, which honestly, that's fine. I just feel so bad for the dogs, but I'm honestly not sure what to do. Your friend is being really mean to you. I think you need to understand that first and foremost. Here you have a sudden family emergency. Your aunt had a stroke, and honestly, that takes priority. These dogs and her situation of being away for 4 days can honestly wait. She's being incredibly selfish, and she expects you to coddle her dogs in the way that she does it. And that's just not fair at all. You don't deserve any of this. Your friend also can hardly be called a friend. It seems like she just doesn't care about your situation, and she's actually saying, yeah, but what about my dogs? I get it, your aunt had a stroke, but whatever. What are my dogs gonna do? They need to be around someone 24/7. But guess what, lady? They only need to be like that because you treated them weirdly when they were growing up. You raised them to be attached to your hip, and you've basically made them like Velcro dogs, where they're always next to you or else they freak out. And that honestly is really unhealthy. It sets a permanent precedent that these dogs always have to live through. Because dogs are creatures of habit. What do you expect them to do? If their owner basically attaches them to their hip, they're going to be stuck there pretty much for the rest of their lives. So in my opinion, you are not the jerk here. Your friend is a jerk for basically being dismissive of your family emergency. And in my opinion, with all the things going on in your life right now, I think it's totally fine for you to back out of this job and decide to let your friend figure out how she wants to solve it. An entitled old Karen hits me in the arm after I decided to wait on a mother and a child, as well as an old lady as they slowly got to their seats on the airplane we were all riding on. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement as well as their aggressive demeanor in my life. Here's what happened. So this happened a few months ago. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I was waiting to disembark my flight from DC to Newark. A couple behind me, probably in their 50s, were bickering because the woman was trying to make a plan to get off the plane quickly, and the husband told her to calm down. down, as they weren't in any kind of rush. They were well-dressed, wealthy-looking, but still in commercial. The man in my row got off, but before I could, not that I was going to cut the people off in front of me, a single mother entered the row and brought down a stroller for her small baby. Another woman, a grandma type of woman, who I don't think they were related to this family, also got into the row. She was very old and very feeble. So yeah, it was taking some extra moments, but it's not really that long. I then felt a smack on my arm, and I heard someone say that I just need to shove past them, or something along those lines. I thought maybe it was the woman behind me, but I figured it wasn't directed to me, and I didn't look back, as I didn't hear it well in the first place. I then felt a serious smack that left pain in my arm for 20 minutes. I turned around gobsmacked, and the woman started to lecture me about disrespecting her by ignoring her. She kept going on and told me my mother raised me poorly. I looked very young, like I was maybe 16, and she was talking to me like a child. I was so shocked, I couldn't even respond. I turned around and continued to wait. I was not going to shove past this grandma who was waiting for the young mom to figure out how to move down the aisle with her baby. This woman then started loudly talking garbage about me to the husband. He didn't say anything to me or her about me. Nobody even stepped in, even though it made a scene. I mean, maybe they thought I was her daughter. The worst part about it is that shortly after disembarking, I saw them standing around at the snack booth. They were clearly not in any kind of rush at all. And honestly, I'm so sick of people like this. Wow, that is so unacceptable. I'm surprised you didn't talk to a flight attendant and be like, wow, yeah, this lady totally just assaulted me. Let's think about it. She smacked you in the arm. It doesn't matter if you're waiting for a flight. This lady assaulted you. That is literally assault and battery. You really should have gotten the police involved. That kind of behavior is so unacceptable, and it absolutely deserved a serious consequence. Who do these people think they are acting like that as well? They're literally standing on a commercial flight just to try and get to your seat. Is it seriously that big of a deal to wait just a little bit longer while a mother and their kid and an old woman try to get to their seats? Come on, let's be serious right now. Look, I don't know about you, but I seriously don't like flying as it is. It's stuffy, I'm crammed next to people, and I seriously just don't want to be flying in the first place. But then you have to deal with some weird entitled Karen standing behind you, smacking you in the arm because people ahead of you are going slow. That is unacceptable behavior, and honestly, the original poster should have stood up for themselves. They should have gotten in contact with a flight crew and said, hey, this lady assaulted me in line and I want to press charges. Or at least say something and be like, hey, don't touch me. Do not hit me ever again. Make a scene, make sure other people see what happened. So yeah, that's a really awful situation, and I'm so sorry you dealt with that. And hopefully nothing like that ever happens to you ever again. An entitled Karen demands that I hand over my bracelet so that her demon child can have it instead. But even though I told them that this bracelet had sentimental value, as it was a gift from my now deceased mother, this entitled Karen simply didn't care, forcing me to have to call security just to escape this crazy Karen. And I've never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I was out shopping at a little boutique at the Summit in Birmingham, and I was honestly just minding my own business. As I made my way to the cashier, this woman and her little girl, about 6 years old, both approached me, and the conversation that followed honestly blew my mind. This entitled woman looks at me and says, "Excuse me, my daughter really loves your bracelet." So I look at her and I say, "Oh, thank you." There was then an awkward silence where the woman just stares at me as I'm unloading my items at the checkout counter. The entitled Karen then says, "I said my daughter really loves your bracelet." So I respond by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I said thank you, did I not?" She says that I did, but that her daughter really loves my bracelet. So I said back, "Okay, thank you for the compliment, I guess." The little girl then screeched and said, "Mommy, I want it." And right at that moment, this entitled Karen looks at me and says, "Well, aren't you going to do anything?" Now, when I heard this, I couldn't believe what she was saying. She then said, "If you didn't hear her, my daughter wants your bracelet. I haven't seen anything like that before." I respond by saying, "Oh, I didn't realize you wanted to know about it. It's from a company that I really like, and it's a really nice bracelet. You can wear it outside or charge it with a UV light, and it glows in the dark. You can order it online from their website if you want one. This one was a birthday gift from my mom." But this entitled Karen didn't want to know about the bracelet. She simply wanted the bracelet. She looked at me and said, "I didn't want a sales advertisement. My daughter wants your bracelet. You can order another one. You need to let my daughter have it." When she said this, I honestly was blown away. I said, "Excuse me? You cannot be serious right now." The little girl then starts stomping her feet, screaming that she wants it right now. The entitled Karen then says, "I am serious. She wants it. You are an adult and she's a child. You can get another one, so go ahead and give it to her. And honestly, at this point, I was so blown away by this lady's entitlement, as well as her demanding that I hand over my bracelet. Now, at this point, I was fed up. I say to her, look, I've been nice, but I don't know you or your kid, and I am not giving you my bracelet. Go bother somebody else. The little girl then starts to shed crocodile tears. She throws a fit by falling on the floor and starts flailing around while screaming her head off, with a combination of screaming, I want it, make her give it to me. You said I could have it, as well as many other annoying phrases. The entitled Karen says, do you see what you just did? My daughter is heartbroken. You should be ashamed of yourself. Give me that bracelet right now. I look at her and I say, what I did? Your daughter is a brat, and you are literally enabling her. Get away from me or I'm gonna have to call security. The cashier, who was watching this all, by the way, finally chimed in and said, ma'am, did you want me to make that call for you? She also looked at this entitled Karen and said, you're gonna need to take her outside if she's gonna throw a fit. The entitled Karen then points at me and says, no, it's her fault. She then turns to me, my daughter wants that bracelet and I'll give you $5 for it. But I just laughed. I said, $5? It's not like I'm gonna sell it to you, but this one costs $70. So the entitled Karen then says, fine, I'll give you $10. And I was so baffled. I looked at her and I said, lady, did you hear me? This is a $70 bracelet, and I'm not interested in selling it. It was a birthday gift from my now deceased mother. But the entitled Karen wasn't taking that. She then said, but it's used. Look, I'll give you no more than $15. You should be giving it to me for my daughter instead of trying to extort money from me. Be glad I'm willing to pay you at all. I had basically had enough at this point. I said to her, you're crazy, lady. Clean out your ears. I am not giving or selling my bracelet at all. You are literally just bothering me at this point. Take your screaming demon child and get out of here, or else I'm gonna have this cashier call security. The entitled Karen then gets up in my face. She says, what did you call my daughter? You're an awful person. My daughter deserves that bracelet. She's been an angel all day. You're making her cry. All she wants is that bracelet. I look at the cashier and I say, please just call security. I'm not dealing with this anymore. She then picks up a walkie-talkie and speaks into it. The entitled Karen says, no, don't do that. We're going. We are going. I hope you can sleep tonight making a little girl cry like this. I look at her and I say, oh, don't worry. I'll sleep like a baby. Goodbye now. Then, looking at the cashier, I say to her, go ahead and call security. I have a feeling she'll be waiting for me when I go outside, and I can smell the crazy on her. I would also like an escort to my car if it's not too much trouble. The cashier says, I already did. That lady is unhinged. And I'm glad you're waiting. I was going to suggest that as well. I wound up waiting for a few moments for security, and I chatted with the cashier about how we were both shocked by the event and absolute entitlement and the nerve this Karen had. I was so relieved when security got there. The cashier and I filled in the officer on what had happened, and he said he was happy to accompany me to my car. And sure enough, as I exited the store, the woman and her now silent child were sitting on the bench on the sidewalk outside the shop. They stood up and started coming towards me, and it wasn't until they saw the security officer that they ran away towards another shop very quickly. I was very glad to see them go, and honestly, I've never had somebody try to guilt trip me or literally bully me into giving over a personal item that was very sentimental and valuable to me. Wow, that lady is absolutely insane. Who in their right mind would go up to a stranger and be like, give me your bracelet right now, my daughter wants it? Like, are you crazy? First off, the original poster's right. She was absolutely enabling her demon child. This kid clearly gets what she wants anytime she wants, and she was used to always having somebody say, yes, you can have it. And this was one of the few instances where she didn't get her way, and this stupid Karen clearly didn't know how to handle it. And the fact that she was trying to undercut the value of the bracelet, which by the way, it clearly had really significant sentimental value. It's not like you're gonna sell it for like, what, 15 bucks? Like, come on, this lady's so weird. She not only like demands it from you, but then she tries to act like, oh yeah, we're negotiating a price. $15 is all I can give you, no more. It's like, lady, I'm not selling it. Are you serious right now? So honestly, good for you and the cashier for having your back, because that entitled Karen's behavior was absolutely atrocious, and there's no reason for anybody to ever be treated that way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My awful job treats me like garbage on a daily basis, and even when I got injured on the job, they literally did not care about my injuries and instead made me feel guilty about doing less. And honestly, at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So for some starting context, I worked at an extremely toxic work environment, and the owner only hires requires a specific ethnic group, and anyone who is not part of that group is treated unfairly and generally ends up quitting. I was brought on board into a managerial position with the promise of increased pay and benefits. The offer seemed convincing enough to quit my 2 other jobs, seeing as the pay would be sufficient enough. This is probably the biggest mistake I've made had I known the things that would transpire next. Fast forward 2 years later, and I have dealt with months of dealing with biased treatment, shady practices, and a lack of transparency. Last week, a guest requested some warm water, and at the bar, we have a hot water dispenser that heats the water up to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The general rule is that you need to serve the water mixed with cold water at a 50-50 ratio so that it's just about lukewarm. As I was dispensing the hot water into a cup, my coworker ended up behind me without letting me know. I turned slightly, collided with her, and splashed the scalding water onto my left arm and hand. I threw my hand under cold water immediately and notified my employer. At this point, I left in the middle of my shift to get checked out at the hospital. Before leaving, my coworker kept asking me, "Who's gonna cover for you? It doesn't even look that bad." I had no words, and I was not surprised at that response. Moreover, I wasn't even sure if the store was insured with WSIB given their track record, but thankfully they were. Soon after getting treated, I was diagnosed with second-degree burns. The next day came and I provided my employer with my doctor's note, as well as the required forms. She refused the form my doctor gave me and said that I needed to make a separate report online. I was a little bit confused at this point, unless things have changed for some reason, as I've been injured on the job before at a different restaurant, and my boss at the time patiently walked me through everything and literally just handled the rest. It honestly seemed like my current employer wanted to avoid filling out an injury report for some reason. After filling my report online, WSIB contacted my employer, and that was only after everything was said and done. Finally, I was allowed to take some time off of work with some modified responsibilities. Given their dismissive attitude, it just seems that they're trying to guilt trip me and downplay my pain. What's even crazier was that I wasn't allowed to work under modified conditions until I was greenlit by WSIB. Essentially, I was bussing and serving with one hand, pushing through my pain, all the while my coworkers are assuring me that it is not that bad and that I'm over-exaggerating. I actually ended up feeling guilty because I was missing out on work or slowing down because of the pain. I'm now being treated differently after working my butt off every shift, and this is all while my coworkers stand around eating and ignoring their responsibilities. It must be okay because the owner has no issue with it. In fact, they join in on the fun. I feel like I'm being led to believe that I'm crazy for wanting a more enjoyable work environment that's not filled with overly blatant racist coworkers who smile at your misfortune. I feel so stupid by giving up on other opportunities to get out. And considering the job market, it just seems so stupid to quit now. I am actively looking, but it just sucks. Just looking back on the entire situation infuriates me. Like, this is what I get in return for my commitment and hard work. Has anyone else experienced something like this before? I just feel so dumb and bad because maybe I'm the crazy one. I'm just so tired of being treated this way, and I honestly don't know what to do. Let me tell you something right now. I know exactly where you're coming from. It took a long time for me to realize at previous jobs where they didn't treat me right that it didn't matter how long I worked there or how hard I worked. Nothing I ever did was going to be good enough. They were always going to gaslight me. They were always going to treat me like garbage. They were always going to look down on me no matter what, even if I was excelling at every aspect of my job. It simply wasn't enough and they would never be satisfied. And honestly, you are in the exact same scenario. These people, no matter what you do, no matter how much they make you feel guilty, they will never appreciate you for the worker that you are. And that is so unfortunate and it's not fair. If I was in your shoes, and trust me, I would be going straight back to the WSIB, which stands for Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, and I would start complaining about everything, report everything that they're doing. I wouldn't hold back for a second. That business is acting incredibly shady. There's no reason for them to be acting that way. And honestly, they deserve the headache in my opinion. Because look at the way they're treating you. They are literally, instead of firing you for doing something wrong, they're trying to make you feel like garbage and then make you quit. And that is unfair. You do not deserve that. So hopefully you find a new job sooner than later, because literally anything would be better than this awful work environment. My entitled manager tries to get me in trouble for being 3 minutes off when I said I was clocking out for work. So I decided to maliciously comply and get some revenge. And as a result, my manager ended up getting fired. Here's what happened. So I worked for a water company for 25 years, and I was on one of their most productive repair crews. That is, until the new manager came in. Let's call him Mr. Jerk. We had a monthly rotation where you were on call for 1 week out of 4, and this would be for emergency repairs out of hours. On the day in question, question, I started work at 7:30 a.m. on a Friday and finished work at 3:15 in the morning on Saturday morning. So this was a pretty long shift. I get to work Tuesday morning and I get called into the office by Mr. Jerk and informed that according to my vehicle tracker, I had left the yard at 3:12 a.m. and not 3:15 a.m., which is an attempt to defraud the company. Now, as you can imagine, I was absolutely fuming at this level of BS. I told him that at the time I was covered in mud and sweat and just wanted to get home after completing a monster shift for the company. And I was blown away that he was genuinely making some kind of firestorm over 3 minutes. He said he was making me aware that I could be fired for it. So that's when I decided to maliciously comply. I said that if we're going to be this petty, you can then take me off the emergency contact list for extra coverage, and I won't be starting 20 minutes early each day either. I'll now be clocking in at exactly 7:30 in the morning, and I shall be heading out at exactly 5:30 p.m. No deviations whatsoever, and you can explain to your bosses why productivity is down and you are struggling to get coverage for emergencies. We'll then see how important your 3 minutes are when they are costing the company a lot of money. Little did I realize at the time, but the guy's job was bonus related and linked to our productivity, which absolutely tanked after that because all the other guys followed my lead, except for a few who were just trying to brown nose. 3 weeks go by of an absolute garbage show and customer service complaints about their work not being carried out in a timely manner. My productivity dropped from 7 jobs per day all the way down to 4, and Mr. Jerk gets called in by his bosses to try and explain what in the world is going on. He tried to spin some BS story that I turned all the guys against him for no reason and that this was the result. But little did he know is that I actually trained his boss when he first started with the company nearly 15 years prior and wanted to come out and find out what we do and experience how hard the job is. He surprised me by working a full month on the repair crews before going back to the office. Anyways, the boss calls me in to find out what is really going on. So I explain how he had been using the tracker to monitor what time I'd left the yard and that I guesstimated my finish time and I overestimated by 3 minutes because I was absolutely dog tired after working a shift while being on call. So in conclusion, the manager was let go for misuse of the tracking system as it's only supposed to be used for emergencies and not monitoring. And we had our on-call system reviewed to cut the hours we were having to work. And honestly, Mr. Jerk absolutely had it coming. Wow, that guy really was a jerk. Like, think about it for a second. He was getting bent out of shape over 3 minutes. 3 minutes literally was gonna make him act like a complete weirdo. Like, did he really want to try this game? It is always so funny when managers try to flex their power only to realize that the workers themselves really do hold the power. Everybody ganged up and said, you know what? You want to be petty? Fine, we'll be petty. We'll be the most petty people on earth. And in my opinion, I think this is absolutely needed. Like, seriously, this guy was acting insane. He was trying to get you in trouble and being like, wow, you might get fired for this. Instead of being, I don't know, maybe reasonable, it was 3 in the morning. Are you really going to get bent out of shape over 3 minutes? So good for the original poster for putting this guy in his place. And I find it ironic that he's the one that actually got fired, while the original poster ended up walking away scot-free. I blocked my psychotic cousins after they made my life a living nightmare. But now I'm worried that I made a mistake. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. I first want to start off by saying that I was never close to my cousins. I haven't seen them since 2017 at my grandma's funeral. Of course, we exchanged a few text messages back and forth, but it was nothing to speak of, to be honest. Last year, they both tried to get involved in my relationship with my now fiance. They followed him on Instagram, which I thought was a bit weird because I rarely talk to them, but I tried not to think much of it. One of my cousins, we'll call her Anna, that's not her real name, even sent a direct message to my now fiance. Then she texted me a screenshot of the direct message. She said in the conversation that she wanted to talk to him to make sure that he's good enough for me. I found that really weird because this is someone I haven't seen since 2017 and I rarely talk to in the first place. I told her that I don't feel comfortable with this conversation that she's having with him, and I even told my now fiance to not reply, unfollow, or block, or do whatever you need to do. My other cousin to the sister of Anna, we'll call her Melissa, also not her real name, caught wind of what I said to her sister, and she made my life a living nightmare. She went after me through direct messages in such an intense way that I didn't think was humanly possible, so I blocked her on Instagram. Then she continued to bother me through my number in regular text messages, so I was forced to block her there too. I was so distraught that I was a complete mess. After all of that, I started receiving really creepy prank phone calls. My fiance was getting them too sometimes. I would get random calls from weird numbers, voicemails of someone screaming like they were being brutally hurt, or even one of a man making really awful noises, if you know what I mean. It was so bad. This was on a continuous loop and it never ended. I went to the cops and I ended up changing my number. My mom then started receiving the calls too, but not nearly as bad as what I experienced. She did some research from the numbers and somehow linked all the calls to my cousin and her friend. She found out that my cousin Melissa's friend is a close childhood friend of Melissa, and he has some mental issues, like he was in and out of mental institutions. When she confronted Melissa, she said that her friend and herself were just prank calling, and it was all in good fun. She told both cousins, Anna and Melissa, that they needed to leave me alone because they made my life a living nightmare, and if I get one more call or text message like that ever again, there's already a record with the police. They then both stopped. So fast forward, and I recently got engaged to my now fiance, and I guess news broke to my cousins. I got a text message from Anna and I didn't respond since I have nothing to say to her. My mom even said both Anna and Melissa direct messaged her on Facebook. I don't know why she is still Facebook friends with them, especially after all of this, and she even replied to the both of them. I got a direct message from Melissa on Instagram and I instantly felt horrified. I didn't open the message, but I checked the account and it is a new account that she seemed to have made, and I guess she did this just so she could be in contact with me since I did block her on her previous one. Honestly, I don't know what to do. My mom seems to think it's nice that they're reaching out to me, and Melissa even told my mom she is sorry about what happened last year. She even thinks that both Melissa and Anna are being nice for supporting my engagement. I don't trust these people, and I don't want them in my life, especially not Melissa, and I don't want them to ruin my life any further. I'm so scared of Melissa. She just doesn't seem like a good person overall. Now, for some additional context, my mom wasn't close with her brother who's their dad, and they had their own toxic relationship. And I even noticed that my uncle viewed my Instagram story. I don't follow him either, so it really seems like he was peeking around without letting me know. I texted my mom and she told me to block him as well. I told her I'll block him and Anna because I don't trust either of them. My mom never wanted me to block Anna because she's worried that it will start up with all the calls again and that this will just cause more problems in our lives. I felt like my mom wanted me to keep Anna in my life when I really don't want her there. So I blocked her and now I'm panicking. Should I unblock her? I'm seriously worried about future problems. I'm so scared that she'll find new ways to contact me. I'm scared of my mom's reaction over me blocking her. I mean, should I do this just for the sake of everything, as well as to prevent issues with my mom? Or did I do the right thing by cutting her off? Honestly, this is so messy, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is ridiculous. Please tell me you're not actually thinking about unblocking these weirdos. You want to know why they're coming back to you and they're acting all nice? Because they want back in your life so that they can bother you and your fiance. They want to get between your marriage and they want to ruin everything for you. They're not actually sorry. They just want an excuse to be there and cause more problems in your life. Like, seriously, why would you put up with that? Your mother is being very naive, or she's just welcoming this punishment in her life. Like, in my opinion, this incident would only happen once, because I would never talk to these people ever again. There is no way I'm gonna put up with their awful behavior or the awful things they did to me. Like, sure, they might actually be sorry, and this might be a chance for all of this to blow over, but you know what? You went through a nightmare and back all of last year. Why on earth would you ever want to welcome that back into your life? Like, if I was in your shoes, I would see almost right away that Anna and Melissa are just trying to play games. They want to try and pretend like they're family. They want to be welcomed back into the conversation and somehow get involved in your life. Meanwhile, Anna was messaging your fiance and trying to make sure that he's the right person for you. Like, seriously, these people are crazy. I would not bother with them for a second, and if I was in your shoes, I would ensure that they do not show up to your wedding. Like, seriously, take the steps now so these members of your extended family don't try and come in and ruin the entire experience. Like, think about it. For months, they sent creepy text messages and these awful prank phone calls, and then when they were confronted about it, they're like, oh, we were just playing. Like, really? You were just playing? Meanwhile, you were knee-deep in a nightmare, and you couldn't find any way to get out of it. And you're supposed to just turn around and be like, oh, it's fine. Welcome back into my life. No, I don't think so. This is one of those situations where I would say, yeah, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Because if I was in your shoes, there's no way these people would come back into my life. I would block them everywhere and say never again. Because truly, I think that these people have ulterior motives. And before you know it, if you do let them back in, they are only going to try and mess with you all over again. Am I the jerk for forcing my older brother to buy me a new engagement ring after he stole mine to propose to his girlfriend? And I'm honestly so offended and unbelievably hurt that at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I'm proposing to my girlfriend who's 24 on our 4th anniversary, which is going to be September 30th. I've been planning this for about a month, and I picked the ring out a couple of weeks ago. The one I got was on sale, so I managed to get it at a surprisingly low price. Last weekend, I told my brother about my plans, and I showed him the ring. He then informed me that he was going to propose to his girlfriend as well. The next day, my brother came to my apartment while my girlfriend was out and asked me if he could borrow my ring to propose to his girlfriend. I thought he was joking at first, but no. His plan was to propose to his girlfriend, explain he was using my ring as a placeholder, and then take her to pick out her own ring later. His reasoning was that he didn't want to spend too much money right away, in case she doesn't say yes. I had never heard of any kind of placeholder rings, so I said no, and the conversation moved on. On Tuesday, he proposed to his girlfriend, and he did it with my ring. He had taken it before leaving my apartment. I got distracted at work and didn't notice it was gone until his fiancée sent a picture of herself wearing the ring to our family group chat. I called him to ask about the ring, and he immediately apologizes and said that he'd keep his promise and give it back to me as soon as possible. But at this point, my girlfriend had seen it, and his fiancée had posted about it on social media, so it was pointless for me to propose using the same ring. We fought about it, and he eventually confessed that while he told his fiancée the ring was a placeholder, he didn't tell her that he had gotten it from me. I felt more angry and betrayed about him going behind my back and taking the ring after I said no than the fact that he stole it from me. I also know his fiancée enough to know that she wouldn't like to learn about her engagement ring and how it was stolen from me. So I told my brother I would tell her the truth if he didn't buy me a new engagement ring. He fought against it for a few hours, but finally gave up and agreed. We went to a different jewelry store yesterday, and I picked a new ring. I managed to stay in the price range, but the new one was still $100 more expensive. My brother bought the ring, but is still accusing me of being inconsiderate and childish. He is insistent that he would have given me the ring back had I given him the opportunity, and I didn't need to threaten him to spend so much money on him. He is now at this point refusing to talk to me. I don't know how to feel about this anymore. I'd usually talk to my brother about these things, and it's surreal that he's the one I'm fighting. I can't tell my fiancé, and many of our friends overlap. The only other person who knows about this is our mom, who is very divided on the issue. She thinks that what my brother did was wrong, and that I'm right to be upset at him, but I didn't have to stoop as low as I did by threatening his relationship. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your brother is a complete idiot, and so is your mom for even trying to take his side. Let's look at the facts real quick. This guy stole your property, namely the ring you were gonna use to propose to your girlfriend, and then use that ring to propose to his own girlfriend. Like, he literally stole your opportunity and took away the ring that you had placed your heart and soul into. And then he's gonna turn around and be like, I'll keep my promise, bro, I'll give it back. But I agree with the original poster. You have already shown it on social media. There's no point in taking it and giving it to your girlfriend. They're gonna see it and be like, wait, what's going on here? Like, that's a surefire way for the truth to get out and everyone to know that your brother's a scumbag. So truly, him buying a ring and getting a replacement was the only option, because what he did was so unfair. And it's almost like he heard that you were proposing to your girlfriend, so he turned around and was like, wait, no, I'm gonna propose to my girlfriend too. Give me your ring. Like, nobody, get your own. Stop being so cheap and buy one for yourself. But instead, he stole it from you. He did it while you were at work and distracted. He went behind your back and took your property. And that is so unacceptable. Like, he seriously sounds like this really weird and jealous older brother who only wanted to propose to his girlfriend as well as use your ring just to try and take you down a peg or two. And that is unfair. So no, once and for all, you are not the jerk here. Your older brother is a complete moron, and anybody who could seriously take his side is also a moron as well. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk after I offered my sister my help and some advice when it comes to taking care of her newborn child? Because right now she's saying that I belittled her, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I went through the surrogacy process and had our son 4 months ago. We were thrilled when my sister announced her pregnancy, and we found out we would be having children very near the same time. Our niece was born a little over 2 months after our son. My situation and my sister's closely mirror each other. Our husbands both work typical 9-to-5s with 30 to 40 minute commutes. My sister is a stay-at-home mom, and I do freelance work from home. For the first 2 weeks after our son was born, we would both take partial night shifts. Once I felt like I had at least some of my bearings on parenthood, I offered to take over completely on weeknights while he does mornings before work and weekends. It's a collaborative process, and that breakdown of parenting just made sense to me. My husband was the one leaving our home to work every day. He was the one who had to be up at a very specific time and make a drive. At 4 months, we no longer have this obstacle anymore. And to be honest, I kind of miss the sweet, quiet bonding time that those nights provided now that he's settled onto a nice sleep schedule and usually wakes up once. Still, I think we got it down to almost the perfect science right before we exited the newborn stage. My sister, on the other hand, is very much still in that phase and struggling. This has been a reoccurring problem for her from the beginning. She has been coming to me saying that she's scared she's going to fall asleep holding the baby, that her husband won't help her with the night feeds, etc. I tried to give her tips since I have been through it. I suggested that she let her partner take over in the evenings, so from 6 o'clock until 9 p.m., so that she can get to bed early and catch a few hours of sleep. She can also try to take a nap whenever the baby naps, and stuff along those lines. She shot down everything, saying that wouldn't work for us, and that she needed her partner to do some of the night feedings. I reminded her that her husband is the one commuting in the mornings, and falling asleep while driving was a very real possibility, and that if I had lived through it, so could she. I then offered to watch her daughter for a few days so she could try and catch up on sleep. She then took major offense to both of these things. She said I was belittling her experience, while also acting like I was the better parent. She said I couldn't empathize with her or give her valuable tips since she had been pregnant and I hadn't, and that me offering to watch my niece just felt like me saying she needed help with raising her own child. My intentions were definitely not malicious, and I honestly would like some outside perspective here. So am I the jerk for the things that I said to my sister? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk. Your sister's being absolutely obnoxious. Like, first off, you were there to take care of your child. You made it work with your partner, and you really have been like knee deep in the trenches when it comes to raising a newborn. It's not like you're coming at this and being like super arrogant. Like, seriously, everything you said was reasonable advice. And for your sister to be like, oh, well, you didn't carry a baby, so you don't know what it's like. Like, that's so insulting, and that's just incredibly rude. It doesn't take away from the fact that you literally raised a child. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong. And if anything, it really sounds like your sister is being really obnoxious about this whole process. And that truly is not your fault. An entitled Karen screams at me, demanding that she get her nachos right away, right before she goes to watch her movie. And I've never been more blown away by someone's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, this happened a few years ago. I was working at a small cinema chain in the United Kingdom, and I had been there for about 6 months, and the movie Frozen 2 had just come out. It was half term, so we were very busy a lot of the days. Now, all of my coworkers had been there for a couple of years, so they knew all the discounted deals, but I didn't. So our cinema did some really special deals, such as you could buy a regular drink and a popcorn. You can make it into a regular deal and try and save money. There were different ones, including a kids deal, which was their choice of either popcorn or a hot dog with a drink. And this will be important later on. So I was working a late shift on the cash register, and we were super busy. And by super busy, I mean that we were out the door with a massive line. And this was also, I think, for the evening showing of Frozen. So a woman comes up to the cash register with her son and asks for a kids deal with nachos. I explain politely, I'm sorry ma'am, kids deals only come with specific choices, and nachos are not included. I proceeded to explain her different deals that she could get with nachos, but obviously they weren't as cheap as the kids deal. This lady kicks off. She starts shouting, pointing to her side of the counter, saying, the sign here clearly says you can get nachos. You need to give me nachos right now. Now, I had no idea what sign she was talking about. There weren't any signs like that when I came into my shift, and I couldn't see it as I was on the other side of the counter. We literally go back and forth like this, me on the verge of tears, with her getting increasingly louder and throwing her arms around, stating, this is false advertisement. I want my nachos. Finally, I radio in my supervisor to help, and she had been watching the whole thing on the cameras. She explained I was right. However, you used to be able to get nachos in the deal, but they stopped it and covered up the sign. And much to our surprise, the new sign had fallen down, showing the old advertisement. Eventually, the woman ended up buying a normal nacho deal. But here's the thing, if she had been nice, I would have just given her the nachos and put it through as a kid's deal. But she was being incredibly rude, so I decided that is absolutely not gonna happen. After the rush, I went upstairs to pretend to adjust a projector, and then I just sat down and cried. I mean, imagine screaming at a teenager over minimum wage nachos nachos that you clearly felt entitled to. Yeah, that lady was completely out of line. There was no reason for her to act that way. In my opinion, you can really see someone's true character with the way they treat people in customer service. I mean, innately, the job of being in customer service already places you below the person you are serving. And if they're a nasty piece of work, they will most likely treat you like garbage in the same way that this lady treated this person. And that is so unacceptable. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, because the way she acted was completely unfair, and you absolutely did not deserve to get treated in that way. My elderly dad, who I have been caretaking for, refuses to pay me the proper amount, and now at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. About 8 months ago, I started essentially full-time helping my dad as his health problems have worsened and his state and age have worsened as well. He has had mobility problems and walks with a cane and a walker. He also has heart failure to some degree, while also struggling with kidney disease. He was in the hospital earlier in the year several different times, and pretty much since that happened, I essentially gave up my apartment at the time and came to help him out. For me, it was always going to be temporary, never a permanent long-term situation. However, I have been here almost a year, and I have full-time been helping him. I do the meals, grocery shopping, upkeep of the house, bringing him to medical appointments, doing the laundry and the dishwasher, pretty much everything including clearing his dishes in general so he feels a little bit comfortable in his living situation. One of the biggest levels of narcissism he has is control of finances. He likes to feel needed. He has given me $500 a month each month that I have been here. If you were to hire a caretaker, they would easily charge you that probably per week. Now here's the thing, I have let it slide for a long time, but it has really bothered me. Several months ago, I brought it to his attention and told him I'm not comfortable with the amount anymore, and that I've basically given up my life and then I'm looking after him and doing everything, but he just dismissed it at the time. About a week ago, we got into an argument because I basically told him I'm planning to leave this fall. I could tell he was trying to act like his ego wasn't hurt and that he was fine with it and wanted me to leave, although he obviously wants me to continue helping him at the small rate that I'm currently being paid at. Now, when this happened, he said some pretty sick things to me. He basically said that he wished myself as well as my sister were never born and that I was the biggest regret of his life. And obviously, these are very sick things to say. After this happened, I stopped helping him altogether. He was able to start making himself a sandwich for dinner and doing basic meal prep, and I haven't lifted a finger. Each day, he has tried to talk to me about it, even yesterday offering me money to go out and get him dinner. But I told him no. But even then, I have my terms which he hasn't agreed to. And of course, his ego got hurt again, so he went out himself and got himself food. Today, I had a moment where I eventually caved emotionally. I got angry at the fact that he doesn't seem to be budging and can't simply treat me with respect. I told him that it's pretty amazing he would rather be stubborn than actually say he needs me for help and that he's going to compensate me and treat me properly. Whenever I have brought up compensation, he always says that everyone he knows has their children help them and that they supposedly don't care about money. I have sacrificed a lot to be here helping him. He seems to not care about that because he always acts like I'm lucky to be here and not the other way around. At this point, it's been probably 5 or 6 days and I haven't done any sort of meal prep. I haven't done any shopping. I haven't even lifted a finger. I have been looking for a brand new apartment for several weeks at this point. I went to see one and I'm trying to continue looking so that I can leave this situation entirely. In the interim, it's hard that I am financially dependent on him because he uses things like this, and now he's essentially not giving me money that I feel he owes me, especially with everything I've done for him. I have done the research, and the average caretaker makes about $2,500 a month. I would even be willing to flex and do $1,000 a month in the interim, all while I'm still here in the house. He has the finances and simply doesn't want to do it out of principle and control. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your dad is awful. He is clearly taking advantage of you, and he doesn't have any intention of actually helping you out. That is incredibly unfair and so unkind. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would just get a job. I would get a job anywhere that just actually pays me money, and I would just straight up save up money so I can get out of there. Build up your money even if it's just a part-time job, and carve your way into a new apartment. Your dad's taking advantage of you. You said it yourself. And it's not like he doesn't have any money to support himself, or even just to hire some kind of worker to help him out. This guy is literally just using you, and that's not fair. So hopefully some kind of solution can come from this, because the way your dad is acting is absolutely obnoxious and so completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for getting upset that all of my siblings took a trip to Paris but didn't invite me or even inform me that they were going. And honestly, after everything that's happened, I'm just so upset, and I seriously don't know what to do. So I found out all of my siblings are in Paris through my 15-year-old daughter, who saw some pictures on Facebook and asked me about it. At first, I thought it was a joke or a filter or something, but after I called my stepdad, I confirmed that indeed my siblings were all in Paris for a week, and I had not been invited or told about it at all. I had recently talked to my oldest sister, who had mentioned a special trip with her daughter to Paris, and honestly, I was really excited for her, but she failed to mention that it was also with my two brothers, as well as their families and our other sister. And even then, I still would have been excited for her. When my dad finally responded to my text message, asking if my siblings were all on a trip together, I was told I was being dramatic and needed to get over it because I would not have been able to afford it. So they decided to just not invite me. Now, my siblings are all well off, and I'm disabled, and I barely make ends meet on Social Security. I told my dad it wasn't about me not going, but rather it was about me not even being invited or told about it. So he said to me, well, I wasn't invited either, and you don't see me whining about it, but I really don't think it's the same at all. I just wish they would have asked me and let me decide for myself if I could go or not. It just sucks so badly. I feel like they are ashamed of me. I already feel less than by society as a whole, and now I feel the same way by my family. It's made me incredibly depressed. Like, why am I even here? The people that are supposed to love me would rather believe I don't exist. I ended the night by crying, and I blocked everyone on everything. Now, the blocking wasn't just because of this one incident. This is just the final straw on the camel's back. And also, I never expected them to pay for me, and especially for an expensive trip like this. I mean, my brothers take international trips frequently, and I see those pictures online, and I think it's awesome. I'm just sad because this is literally everyone minus me. This was a big trip for my sisters, and I just wish I had been told ahead of time instead of being kept in the dark. So am I the jerk for getting upset about not getting invited? What should I do? Okay, first off, the way they treated you is absolutely awful. That is so unacceptable, and that's just so disgusting. I mean, the fact that you were kept in the dark about this sends a very clear message straight to you. They are basically telling you that no, they don't want you there, and that they really do judge you based on your disability as well as your financial situation. So no, you are not the jerk here. Your sisters and your dad are absolutely being jerks, and it is completely unacceptable that they chose not to invite you. An entitled Karen freaks out when I take her bathroom stall, claiming that she has ownership over it as she always uses that specific stall anytime she uses the bathroom. And I'm honestly just so blown away by her awful behavior. Here's what happened. So this literally just happened. I'm sitting in the food court area of my local mall typing this up as we speak, and truly I think it belongs here. I was just in the mall bathroom. It is pretty big, and I think there are about 8 to 10 stalls in it. When I entered the bathroom, it looked like only one other stall was occupied. I chose a stall randomly, and I settled in to do my business. I hear the doors to the bathroom open, as well as loud clicks from high heels. They stop outside my stall, and I'm startled by a loud banging. Then I hear a nasally, "Excuse me," and I say to them, "Someone's in here," and this is the following conversation that actually happened. The entitled Karen says, "Yeah, no duh. Can you hurry up? I need that stall." I say to her, there are plenty of open stalls you can choose from. The entitled Karen says, "Do you think I'm blind? I want this one. Now hurry up, I have somewhere to be." Now at this point, I'm honestly a little stumped, so I stutter just a little bit. "Well, I'll be out when I'm done. If you're seriously in that much of a hurry, you can use one of the empty stalls." The entitled Karen then says, "Listen here, you jerk. I don't like your attitude. This is my stall. I use it every time I'm here. Now move it." Now at this point, she is literally shaking the stall, and now I'm getting upset. I start screaming, "You need to back up. You can't own a stall in a public bathroom. Now leave me alone." The entitled Karen is now kicking and shaking the door. I loudly sigh, and I decide to just ignore her. I also decide I'm going to purposefully sit in this stall longer, even though I'm done with my business. This psychopath continues to hurl insults, as well as kick and shake the door, literally for a solid 5 minutes. Finally, she screams out some swear words, and eventually she loudly clicks and clacks out the bathroom door. I mean, honestly, who thinks that they actually own a specific stall in a mall bathroom? Some people, just like this entitled Karen, are just straight up psychopaths. Wow, that's honestly the craziest thing I've ever heard. Seriously, you want to try and claim a stall in a bathroom, let alone one at the mall? Like seriously, why would you do that? Is it really necessary to be like, "Oh, I call dibs on this one. I go here all the time"? Like, I have so many questions. Why are you willingly at the mall all the time? Like, does anyone actually want to be here? I know know when I go to my local mall that's slowly withering away, I'm just immediately bombarded with many reasons as to why I don't want to be here. So truly good for you for getting back at this weird entitled Karen. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody staking a claim over a bathroom stall before, but the way you handled it was perfect, and this entitled Karen absolutely had it coming. My entitled mother demands that I have alcohol at my wedding, even though we decided that we're gonna have a dry wedding, specifically because of my mother's history with being an alcoholic. And now she's causing massive problems, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I are getting married in 2 weeks in our backyard. We will be having a catering spread for our reception afterwards, and we decided to have a dry wedding for 2 reasons. For starters, my mom is an alcoholic who is known for making a scene when she gets drunk, and my fiance has a brother who binge drinks and has had alcohol poisoning on more than one occasion. He doesn't drink all the time, but once he starts, he can't stop until he either passes out or someone physically restrains him from getting more. I also have an uncle who's my mom's brother and a stepdad who are in recovery, and they don't need that kind of temptation. My fiance and I are also not big drinkers, so we decided to just avoid any problems and just have a dry wedding. Now, we will have a less dry reception and honeymoon with some of our friends later on. All of our families have been supportive. My uncle was especially grateful to us for doing this, since he takes his recovery very seriously, and he has been 7 years sober. I sent out wedding invitations 4 months ago and said it would be a dry wedding and asked people not to bring alcohol. That is until my entitled mother entered the picture. Now, as you can probably guess from the title, I get the following phone call from my mom, who I also sent an invitation to 4 months ago. She starts off the conversation by asking me, "Is it true that you're not having alcohol at your wedding?" I say to her, "Yes. My fiance and I decided we didn't want alcohol during our special time." My mom then said, "That is so silly. It's gonna make your wedding so boring." I responded by saying, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but my fiance and I have made our decision. We want everybody to feel comfortable at our wedding." She then said, "Clearly you don't care about my comfort. What if I want to have a little drink to pass the time?" So I shot back and said, "Oh, like you did at our other uncle's wedding, where you got so drunk, making a horrible scene and also calling the bride a gold digger?" My mom then got defensive. She claimed that it wasn't her fault and that they made the drinks way too strong. I just responded by saying, "Yeah, okay. I really wish you would just address this need that you have to always have alcohol wherever you go." My mom then said, "I don't need to have alcohol. I just think your wedding will be boring without it. You want a fun wedding, right?" So I said to her, "We will have a fun wedding. We don't need alcohol to have fun." She then said to me, "This is so stupid. Why should everyone else be punished just to make it comfortable for a few people? It seems like you care more about your uncle and your stepdad than anyone else." But again, I wasn't having that for a second. I said to her, "Or maybe I just want to avoid any kind of scenes." And when I said that, my mom blew up on me in a way that I honestly never expected. She starts screaming, "I just told you that wasn't my fault." So I said to her, "Just like your DUI isn't your fault?" My mom then gets really offended. She says, "How dare you bring up that difficult time in my life? I was going through a lot emotionally. What is wrong with you kids? You need to mind your own business. If I want to drink, that's my business." And when she said that, I decided to send it right back at her. I said to her, "Well, my wedding is my business. We do not want alcohol there. And that is final. Now, I can't stop you if you decide to pregame my wedding, but I've already made it clear to my uncles and my brothers that if you cause a scene, then you are going to be made to leave." At this point, my mom started crying. "Why do you kids hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve to be treated like this by my children?" When she said that, I looked at her and I said, "Are you really ready for me to go down that list?" She says to me, "None of you understand. None of you will ever understand. I'm the mother of the bride. I should be treated better than this." But I said to her, "I think I've treated you pretty well during this process. I've acquiesced to your boyfriend, whom I don't even know by the way, and yet they're still coming to my wedding. I've even given in to some of your other demands. So please, tell me how you've been mistreated." My mom then says, "You didn't invite me to go dress shopping. The mother of the bride always goes dress shopping with her daughter. I barely know the fiance because you never even bring them around. How do I know that you're marrying the right person?" I say to him, "Well, that's because my aunt made the dress." And my mom sarcastically said, "Well, isn't that just special?" I let out a deep sigh and I said to her, "As for the rest, I think you know why. We are not really close enough for you to have any say in who my significant other is. Honestly, Mom, I'm done with this conversation. If you really feel that strongly about this, I'll understand if you don't want to attend my wedding." She then says to me, "Oh, I bet you would like that, wouldn't you? One way or another, you will respect me as your mother." I just said to her, "Sure, Mom. I'm gonna hang up now and I hope you have a good day." Honestly, I'm so livid right now, and I have half a mind just to uninvite her altogether. I spoke to my dad and my brother, and my uncle thinks her drinking is getting really bad again and has been wanting to hold an intervention. But I told him that I'm focused on the wedding right now, but that I definitely agree that this was out of line and it's something that needs to be done. Fast forward, and I sent a text message to my mom reiterating all the rules for my wedding. She says that she knows where she isn't welcome and said that she won't be attending. My dad told me not to worry about this anymore and that he'll see to it that she doesn't ruin my wedding. I then sent the following text to my mom. Mom, at this point, I'm going to officially uninvite you from my wedding. I'm not going to allow you to change your mind, and I would prefer if you would not come to my wedding at all, given your poor behavior. At this point, I've decided I don't want any further contact with you unless you decide to curb your toxic behaviors and your drinking. I wish you the best. I hope you can find a way to heal, but I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but I can't handle you in my life anymore. If you try to force the issue, I'll be forced to take legal action up to and including contacting law enforcement. Please do not contact me ever again. I then went to delete her from my Facebook page, only to then find out that she had just written saying how being a mother is a thankless job and how she doesn't understand how she raised such rude and judgmental kids. She ended it by saying that she hopes her kids get over themselves someday. I'm honestly so done. This sucks, but it has been a long time coming. But this also doesn't just include me, because I guess now my grandparents and uncles have had enough. They've decided to stage an intervention next weekend. If she refuses to get help, she will no longer be welcomed at family events, and she will no longer be a part of the family. They told me not to worry about it. My sister will go, as she's the only one of her children that even has a relationship with her, but even my sister said that if she doesn't get help, she will cut her off as well. I am hoping and praying that this works, but given that she spent 1 year in rehab, and the second she was off probation, she chose to drink again, all in all, it just doesn't give me a lot of hope. My dad told me he's hiring the local biker gang to act as security. We live in a small town, and the nearest big city is about an hour away, so it would be really expensive to have a security company come all the way out here. But honestly, I don't have any problem with that. This is the type of gang that helps out children and animals that have been mistreated, and they do a lot of good where I live. The worst I've ever heard about them is that they doled out some rural justice to a guy that was not treating his sister nicely, and they basically ran him out of town. When my mom got her DUI, she ran into someone's house and car, and thankfully, when she tried to back out, nobody was hurt. And I guess it was the house of a relation of somebody in the gang, so they agreed to help, and my dad is paying them to be security just in case. They know my family, as one of my dad's cousins is a member, and they know my mom, as I think she dated a guy in the gang at one point, so they basically know exactly what to look out for. But you know what? I'm just not gonna stress about her anymore. I have 13 days until my wedding. I'm going to focus on the final touches and just try and enjoy myself. My biological mom made her choices. Now that I've stood up for myself, I honestly feel nothing but relief. My stepmom will be there, and I see her more as my real mom, so honestly, it's fine. I've been through a lot of therapy already, so I've had to make peace with how my mother actually is. Wow, good for you for standing up for yourself. Your mother definitely has some kind of problem. Like, the first thing she even talked about when she called about your wedding was asking if there was gonna be alcohol there in the first place. Like, wouldn't you want to be like, oh wow, you're getting married, I'm so happy for you, or something along those lines? But her priorities are clearly very messed up, and that is such a shame. It really makes sense as to why your family wants to have some kind of intervention too. She really does not sound healthy, and the way she's lashing out at you and the rest of the family, it really is a cry for help, so hopefully she can find the help that she needs. But also, that doesn't excuse the way she's been acting. You really do have every right to push her aside and say to her, no, you can't be at my wedding. I mean, just look at the way she acted at other people's weddings. She got drunk, she caused a massive scene, was saying all these horrible things. Like, that is unacceptable, and seriously, it's not okay. So truly, with all things considered, this is really a good step in the right direction. And hopefully your wedding can go off without any kind of problems, and your mother can get the help that she absolutely needs. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I just found out that my husband has not only been cheating on me, but also has had a secret second family for almost 2 years with another 14-month-old child for him to deal with. And I've never felt more betrayed, and I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I have been married for 10 years and have 2 children together, and he travels often. I also want to say that about 8 months ago, I discovered that I was infected with an incurable disease that is spread through quality time with other people, if you know what I mean. He blamed me for this, saying that I was the unfaithful one. Well, I was browsing Facebook in a mother's group, and in that group, it's for her help with children, to ask for donations, and to share experiences and maybe some funny memes. A mother shared that she would give her husband a laxative tea so he wouldn't go to a soccer game the next day. It was all mockery and laughter in the comments of the post and telling her to update the results. Now, I'm the type of person who likes to read comments, and unfortunately, I saw a profile that had a photo of a woman with my husband. I started watching and apparently they got married civilly. My husband created another profile but has a different name and surname. I think that child has his false last name because she uploaded a post when she went to register the child's birth certificate and placed the full name there as if she were proud of it. I posted this in the same group anonymously, and several people gave me advice, and we deduced that possibly the other lady didn't know because of what she shared on her profile. I wrote to her and I was surprised that this lady did not know that he was married, and they've been married for 2 years and their baby is approaching 14 months old. Although they are not technically married as their marriage is not valid. I have now hired a lawyer. I took all the evidence and I'm now in the divorce process, especially since when I complained, he preferred her. He even left the house to live with her. Besides, he refuses to give alimony, claiming that he has another child to support, and that if he has to give alimony to my children, he will seek the minimum payment even if he has to quit his job. How do I proceed with my life? What should I do? First and foremost, that is awful. I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. Like seriously, this guy's a piece of garbage. It's a good thing you're getting out while you can, and you're choosing to move on with your life and try and get away from him. Like this guy betrayed you after 10 years of being together, and you have 2 children together. Like seriously, that is so inappropriate. He just goes around and finds, I don't know, a second family and also has another kid with this second family. Like seriously, that's insane and that's so inappropriate. But I think you're moving in the right direction. Like you have a lawyer, you're starting the process of divorcing him and getting away from him. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be doing the same thing. Also, as a side note, I would be telling my lawyer that, hey, my soon-to-be ex-husband said that he's going to quit his job just to avoid child support. And I'm sure when the court case comes around, your lawyer's going to have a field day asking him about that. So truly, I hope this all works out for you. This is an awful situation, and truly, with all things considered, I think you'll be so much happier being away from that cheating dirtbag. Am I the jerk for being honest with my daughter and explaining that I'm disappointed in her life decisions? Here's what happened. So I have 2 daughters. One is 23 and one is 20 years old. They are both so beautiful and smart, and I really love them both. I always wanted them to be strong and independent women who can stand on their own 2 feet, and I tried to raise them that way. They were both interested in volleyball. I always supported their interest. My younger one is still playing in a team and also studying at a good university. She is really hardworking, and even if she does not succeed in playing professional volleyball, she will definitely have a very good job. My oldest daughter quit both sports and school when she got pregnant at the age of 18. When she first told us that she was pregnant, I was very upset and advised her to not keep the child, if you know what I mean, because having a child at such a young age would disrupt her life. Well, she didn't want to do that, and my wife supported her decision. To be honest, I was very insistent on her getting that done at the time, but when I saw that she remained determined, I dropped the issue and supported her fully, even though I didn't want to. She got married quickly with the baby's father. Then she decided to stay at home and take care of her child, and her husband started to work. I never wanted my daughter to be financially dependent on her husband, but I never voiced it either. But of course, my daughter knew that I'm bothered by this. Yesterday, we were having dinner with my daughters and my wife. My wife and daughter started talking about being a mother. My wife told her that even though I didn't want her to keep the child, I still love my grandson very much. My daughter asked me if that was so, and I said, of course I love him. Now, I really do love my grandson, but my daughter knew that I was bothered by her situation, so it did not sound sincere at all. My daughter then said that I could give an honest answer. I told her that I really love my grandson, but that I was disappointed that she had become a mother at an early age. I'm upset that she left school and her job and was now dependent on a man. Now, she didn't argue with me, but the rest of the night was a bit tense. At the end of the night, she went home, and my wife started a fight over what I said. I told her that she was the one who wanted an honest answer, but my wife is sure that I'm being a jerk. My younger one agrees with me, but says I was rude to say it out loud. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Here's the reality. She kept her child because she wanted to raise her son. That's the facts that are right in front of her. She can't go back in time and change the past, and she certainly doesn't need you to be rude to her and basically put her down when she's already in a weird situation. In my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not have said what you just said. I don't think your comments were productive or in any way supportive of the situation. And the situation is that she's now a stay-at-home mom, she raises her child, and and that's it. Right now, she is not going to have that dream career, and yeah, it looks like a man is supporting her at the moment financially. Like, I understand why you're disappointed, but also I think it's time for you to step up and be supportive of your daughter as she tries to make these steps forward. And I think both things can be true. You can still love someone and be there for them, but you can also still be disappointed by their choices. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would probably be apologizing to your daughter and being like, hey, I'm sorry for what I said, and then explain that you want to be there for her and help her out and be a good grandparent to your grandson. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below about this specific situation. How would you react if you were the parent in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled and rude cashier tells me that I can't bring a cart into the liquor store. So I decide to maliciously comply and stack all the liquor that I was buying, eventually preventing him from even doing his job. And I've never felt better at getting back at anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for some background, about a year or two ago, I did a lot of shopping at a grocery store for work. Sometimes I would need to grab items from the liquor store, which is attached to the grocery store itself. The liquor store operated as its own separate little store with its own checkout, but it was still owned by the grocery store, and you had to enter from inside the grocery store. When you enter the liquor store, there is a sign that you must leave your shopping cart outside. This normally makes sense as the liquor store is small, and having people and carts all around would cause quite the traffic jam. So anyways, on to the situation at hand. On my list for this shopping trip, I had a full load of liquor to get for the bar at work and a holiday party. I probably needed around 15 handles of assorted booze. As I walked into the liquor store for this shopping trip, there was no one else around except for the cashier. Knowing that I had a large amount of items to purchase, I asked if I could bring my empty cart in and park it next to the checkout spot so I could load it with all the liquor bottles I needed to purchase. I was met with a very nasty, "No, don't you see the sign?" Now, I tried to explain the situation and how I needed many more bottles than I could possibly carry. Plus, there were no handheld baskets around for me to try and manage. But the cashier wasn't having it and told me if I really couldn't carry everything at once, I could place some items on the checkout counter while I went to get more. And this is where my malicious compliance comes in. Now, I only needed about 15 bottles to cover the month's supply of booze, but I figured why not go ahead and try and stock up for the next month. I spent about 15 minutes running back and forth from the shelves to the counter, placing more and more items down, taking up the whole counter space. I mean everything. As I was doing this, a few customers came in and watched the cashier struggle to work around my items in order to scan and check out the other customers. The look on the cashier's face was glorious, as he had to work around a problem he literally created himself. When I finally did check out, the cashier didn't have enough room on the checkout counter to scan and bag my items. So get this, the cashier actually said to me that I could bring my cart in to put my bottles in it just to make room on the counter. I jokingly asked if he knew that carts were prohibited in the liquor store, but he definitely did not laugh at that one. After a few seconds of awkward silence, I went and got my cart anyways, because it would have been a huge inconvenience for me to run back and forth from the counter to my cart. Now here's the thing, I genuinely understand the store's policy on this, but sometimes there needs to be exceptions to every rule. Honestly, this is the cashier's mistake. I mean, you did say to them before anything happened that yes, I'm buying a lot more than I can handle, and instead of being reasonable, this guy decided to be a complete jerk. So honestly, good for you for putting him in his place, because rude cashiers like that absolutely have it coming. My boyfriend accused me of being a gold digger, despite the fact that we're both poor and we live in a one-bedroom apartment, and I've never been more blown away by someone's delusions in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live with my boyfriend and we are both very poor. We live in a box flat with a bathroom so small, I can go to the bathroom, wash my hands, and have a shower all at the same time. I work 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I'm a bartender at a club and a hairdresser by day. He's an Uber delivery driver that works flexible hours, but I would say he only works about 3 hours and spends the rest of his time investing in cryptocurrency. I do not mind being the breadwinner, but that is what I am. I am the breadwinner hands down. Anytime I ask him to pick up more shifts, he says that he will and then never does, and it has caused a lot of arguments recently. Our landlord has increased our rent recently, and I've asked for his financial help for our flat, but he says that he's put his money into investments so that the government can't touch it. And basically what he's trying to say is that he put his money in crypto. I eventually put my foot down and told him we don't have money for investments. We need housing, gas, electricity, water, and food. He told me that all I talk about is taking his assets. He then said that I'm a gold digger, and when he said that, I was so taken aback. I had to look around the room to make sure that I heard heard that correctly. I then told him that I work at a club, and if I wanted to be a gold digger, I wouldn't be standing in a shoebox with him, huddling around a Yankee candle for warmth. That I wouldn't be spending my evenings trying to figure out how to make dinner with a packet of Kool-Aid, a tumbleweed, and a singular kidney bean that I found in the cupboards. I told him that the other men I see in the club make it rain every single day, while he can't even scrape together enough money to make it hail. He then asked me if I could go somewhere else because he needed his space, but we live in a one-bedroom apartment. I mean, where am I supposed to go? Into the kitchen sink? The more I think about it, the more angry it makes me. Even the local addict that sleeps on my apartment complex patio agrees that he's delusional. And you know that it's a dark day when you have a more reasonable conversation with a user than you do your own partner. Yeah, your boyfriend is absolutely in denial. So this guy works, what, 3 hours a day and then spends the rest of his time wasting his money on crypto? Here's a news flash. You're gonna lose all your money. That guy's gonna get absolutely nothing in return, and he's gonna have the rug pulled out from underneath him, just like all the other crypto scams out there. Like, seriously, does anyone actually invest in crypto anymore? I mean, isn't that just like a giant liability where you're basically throwing your money away and you're hoping you get something in return? But honestly, you have it right. Your boyfriend is out of his mind if he thinks you're just after his money, because this guy doesn't make anything. And you said it best. You are the breadwinner of your family, and this guy had better start giving his fair share. My entitled sister wants to sell her baby to our parents in exchange for a new house in Los Angeles, as well as a large lump sum of money. And considering how awful my sister is as a person, my parents agreed, with the main focus of trying to get that child away from my awful sister. And I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's crazy behavior in my life. Here's what happened. Some time ago, my sister gave birth to a baby boy. She made sure we knew the gender well in advance, as well as sending our parents pictures of ultrasounds and anything else that kept our parents' need for a grandchild motor running. My sister only allowed our parents to come to the hospital to meet their grandchild at birth. They had to take a last-minute flight to Los Angeles just to be there. My sister also forbade me from going. She said that I had ruined her life enough. She wished she was an only child, wished that I was no longer alive, as well as many other stuff in repetition. And she doesn't want me anywhere near her ever again. Well, trust me when I say this, the feeling is definitely mutual. But even still, 3 months before the birth, my sister showed back up again. This time, she pleaded with our parents to let her in to talk, and not to contact me that time because she really didn't want me there. She only had one day before she had to head back to Los Angeles and had driven through the night. I wasn't there to see it, but from the details I got from my parents, my sister went crying to my mom and begging her to take her back into the family. Now, for some additional context, my sister has done some horrible things to my family. She's made false accusations against me. She's made mine and my parents' life a living nightmare. So needless to say, she's not really on good terms with pretty much anybody. Now, my dad said that mom hardly wanted to look at her. My dad confronted my sister and said that she didn't bother to try and contact them for years, and that she was only back and even pregnant in the first place because it was all about the money to her. And honestly, with all things considered, this really is true. In fact, she saw some of the things I posted online about her, and that's the reason why she came back. Otherwise, she would still be no contact with all of us. My mom spoke up and told her that she hoped for so long that my sister would come home to visit, or even just talk to her, but it was years of no contact. She'd done everything for her. She had favored her, she defended her lies, she made sure that she didn't get a felony in court, and yet my sister showed zero appreciation. My dad backed this up too, and even compared me to her, and how I at least appreciated my parents. Then he blurted out that I'd been made a legal partner in the business that he is having me manage, and that I'm on track to eventually take his place one day. Now, after that, I'm told that my sister went hysterical and was screaming about how it wasn't fair and that it should be her instead. Well, somehow she was still allowed to spend the night in her old room, and the next morning she dropped this nightmare on my parents. I heard her emotion was just gone. I guess she didn't feel the need to keep up the act anymore. She said that she'd allow mom and dad to adopt her child in exchange for a house in California and an undisclosed sum of money that I'm not privy to. And you know what? My parents agreed, but my dad had demands of his own. In return for the adoption of my nephew, my sister was to give up any and all rights to her son, sign a contract stating that she will have no part of the family ever again, and change her legal name. That last part really surprised me. Dad went so far as to pay for her name to be changed in order to separate her from the family. This meant getting all of her information reissued, such as her diploma, college degree, passport, and anything else that ever had her name on it, all paid for by my parents. And as part of the agreement, my sister could never change her name back or even to something similar. toddler. My parents didn't halfway do anything in this endeavor. My participation in it, though, was minimal at best. My parents went to California to purchase a house my sister approved of, but she would not be given the house until after the baby was born and in their hands. She was very unhappy about this, as she wanted to move into the house after she had signed the contract, but our parents had none of it. They gave my sister a week to sign, and she signed in front of a lawyer in less than 48 hours. So as of then, I'm now considered an only child. I'm not gonna say I'm happy about it. I used to love my sister before she became a narcissist, but what's done is done, and I'm over it. My parents also tracked down the baby's biological father to get him to relinquish his parental rights as well. My sister found out he went back to his hometown in Arizona after he abandoned her, and my parents went to see him before the baby was born. He had no problem signing away his paternity rights after a DNA test confirmed that he was the father. He must have still been in cahoots with my sister because he also wanted a house and a payout as compensation just to sign away his rights, although not for nearly as much as what I'm told. My parents purchased him a cheap house somewhere and just paid him off. Well, I say cheap in comparison to the house they bought for my sister in LA. I mean, this was one expensive baby to adopt, but as my dad said, it's worth every cent to make sure my grandson has a future. My dad sold one of his smaller businesses to a competitor in order to get the money together without really affecting his other finances. The said competitor had been making him offers for years, and my dad wasn't that involved with the business anymore, so he finally took the office, but only if they retained all of the employees already there, which they thankfully did. And now it's their name on the sign. But my parents didn't care because they fully adopted my nephew. When the child was born, my sister didn't even want to hold him, and I heard even once referred to the baby as that thing, which was just beyond cruel. She even admitted she was planning to sell the baby in a closed adoption to someone else, and that was only if our parents had not agreed to do it themselves. She got her house and got her money, and then promptly cut contact all over again. So she's gone from our lives for good, and no longer related to us as well. My mom was doing the bulk of the parenting of my nephew until they can find a live-in nanny to help pick up the slack, since they are getting old. They will need help with a newborn, especially when they become a toddler. My mom is very happy, but my dad has made it very clear to her that they will not make the same mistakes they did with my sister. No favoritism, no enabling behaviors, no lying, absolutely nothing like that, and that the child will not ever know his real mother, as she is no longer living to us. And if my sister ever tries to seek him out, she'd be in serious breach of contract and have to return the house or its monetary value, so I doubt she would ever even try. After the time she'd first shown up pregnant, my sister and I have only spoke once more over the phone, and it was after my nephew was born. For the record, she called me to gloat and tell me off one last time. I told her she was a delusional narcissist who only wanted to blame me because it's easier for her than accepting reality, but she just reacted smugly that it didn't matter what I said. She's gonna believe what she wants to believe, and she'd already won anyways, since she got what she wanted. She still got a good career in LA, lots of money, and now a house. And all it cost her was a baby that she didn't even really want. She can live however she wants now, and we can't do a thing about it because we are no longer family. I then hung up and I blocked her phone number. I was seething with anger, but there was no point in arguing further. In her own way, yeah, she kinda won, but at what cost? She no longer has family and no one to rely on ever again if things go south for her. My nephew isn't going to be raised as another son due to a 30-year age difference between me and him, so my parents want to make it clear that he is a grandson as he grows up, and that we're his true family. Our goal is to make sure he never has any desire to seek out his biological mother. She never wanted him anyways, and it's better that he understands that from a young age, rather than pine for the mother he never had. So I guess that's the end. It was a long time coming, but honestly, I'm happy that my sister no longer has any connection to any of us. Wow, I can't imagine selling your child off to your parents, or even to somebody else simply because you didn't want them. Now, for starters, the original poster has gone through many nightmares with their sister. Their sister really is a narcissist, they've done some awful things, and they spent a long time being in no contact with their parents. And it really seems like they only step back into the original poster's life if they want money or some kind of possession. And that is honestly really disturbing behavior. It's not fair to have a sibling like that who treats you like garbage and constantly tries to blame all of their problems on you. I mean, it's not like the original poster ruined this person's life. They did that themselves. Their awful decisions led them down the path they chose. So good for the original poster for finally receiving some kind of closure in the situation. Yes, your sister is a piece of work, and yes, she's done a lot of terrible things in your life, but you know what? With all things considered, she is officially out of your life. And hopefully, for the sake of you and and your parents' happiness, she decides to stay away and everybody can just move on with their lives. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, my wife and I didn't receive any service from the restaurant we were eating at for nearly 30 minutes. And after waiting for so long, we decided to go to their competition across the street just to try and get something to eat. But now we're left wondering if we did something wrong or if this truly was on the restaurant. Here's what happened. So today I took my wife to dinner at a casual sit-down restaurant. It's one of those places that has football on the flat screen in the bar, but also has Brussels sprouts and quinoa on the menu. Sort of a relaxed, upscale type of thing. Entrees are $20, $30 for lobster roll or teriyaki glazed salmon, and appetizers are $15 to $20, with soup being $10 and soft drinks about $3 to $4. I always tip at least 20% and usually 25% if the server does anything beyond the absolute minimum. Now, because this place is not fancy, we did not dress fancy. I was wearing shorts and an MCU t-shirt. My wife was wearing jeans and a Sesame Street t-shirt. I mean, she does work with kids after all, so she just wore it. We were out running errands and we knew that they were nearby. When we arrived, the place was half empty. Definitely not busy on a Sunday afternoon. So we walked in, we were greeted, we got seated and received our waters. And that was it. We were probably ready to order after about 10 minutes, then waited another 10 minutes until we finally got restless. Our server was on the floor interacting with other customers and staff, but never approached us at all. I signaled the host because we were seated near the door, and when she came over, I politely asked, "Can you please let our server know that we're ready to order?" She walked over to him, had a word with him, and then we waited. And we waited and waited some more. We even wandered around and chatted with some of the other staff members. After 10 more minutes, 30 minutes in total, we realized that we were being frozen out for some reason. There was a moderately expensive steakhouse across the street, and my wife had even started reading their menu on her phone at the 15-minute mark. And by that time, we were really hungry and thoroughly unimpressed. So we decided to go across the street and go there instead. So honestly, what happened? We had pretty much no interaction with the server, so it's not like we got a chance to be rude to them. All we did was ask for water. There's honestly only 3 things that I can think of. For starters, our clothing was cartoony and casual. Perhaps we did not look like we had any money to spend. We didn't order alcohol, but that's because it's a migraine trigger for my wife, and I think it's awful to drink in front of her when she can't. We're also a mixed-race couple, and sometimes people in service positions choose to supposedly fire us as customers because they're low-key incredibly racist and they don't approve of us being together. So what about it? Does customer presentation have an effect on the level of service received? Did we do something wrong? Because honestly, at this point, I seriously am not sure. Honestly, that restaurant is so far out of line. They did exactly what you described. They iced you out and refused to serve you. And it could have been for any number of reasons, honestly. It could have been because of the way you were dressed, or even possibly because you're a mixed-race couple. But regardless, I can't believe a server would act like that. Like seriously, who cares who sits down at your table? You should give the same service no matter what. And making someone wait 30 minutes just to get nothing? That is so inappropriate. I mean, talk about losing a customer. You guys could have easily come back and eat there again, or at least make it like a regular thing. But you'll never know because you never got any food. All you got was water and some menus, and that's it. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. These people were being massive jerks, and they seriously missed out because according to the original poster, they ended up spending about $90 across the street at the steakhouse while also giving a $23 tip to their server. So truly, the only person who's at a loss here is the stupid server who decided not to serve you. Am I the jerk for calling my mom out for not being fully honest about the reason she wants her husband to walk me down the aisle at my wedding? Here's what happened. So my wedding is coming up, and my mom has been campaigning hard for her husband, who is my stepdad, to be the person to walk me down the aisle. I already asked my paternal grandparents, and my mom knew I was going to ask them and knew when I had done it, but she has not given up on the desire for me to ask her husband. The other day, she told me that it would make the most sense, and she feels like he is the most correct and most worthy person to walk me down the aisle. But I called her out on that. I said that she should be more honest with me about why she wants him. The reason I know is because she knows her husband and my dad hate each other, and she believes I should have been loyal to her husband over my dad. She especially believes I should have given all the loyalty I had to my dad over to her husband after I lost my dad at the age of 7. Now, for a bit of background, my parents broke up, they were never actually married, and my mom got married to her husband when I was 2 years old. My dad and her husband absolutely hated each other. I was aware of the fact, but it became especially bitter for me when I was 6 years old, and my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I don't remember a lot from that time, but I do remember my mom's husband showing up to see my dad when he was in the hospital, and I remember him yelling at my dad. I also know prior to that the two of them were as bad as each other, and the animosity was completely mutual. When my dad passed away, I didn't automatically start to care more or even feel closer to her husband. He did try, and I think part of his hatred for my dad was that I was such a daddy's girl and never looked at him being in my life as having two. I spent equal time with both my parents when my dad was alive, but I never got closer to my mom's husband. He was my mom's husband and my half-sibling's dad, but even though I don't remember a time where I didn't know him, I never saw him as my actual dad. He always hated my dad too. I heard him grumble about him over the years, even saw him spit near a photo of my dad once. Eventually he gave up trying and decided it wasn't worth his time, which I felt was better for everybody. But my mom hates it. She hates that he's just her husband and I haven't embraced him as my dad. One time she said it can be so hurtful to lose a man that passed away and then be rejected in favor of that man. I asked what she meant by that, and she told me I never picked her husband over my dad, and I never let him feel like he won against him in one thing. But I told her that he had. He was still alive while my dad was gone. I think my mom still wants that win for her husband, especially when his hatred for my dad still burned strong. I believe that my paternal grandparents are the right people to walk me down the aisle. I've been close to them my entire life. My mom is mad that I called her out and tried to make her be honest, but she said that she was not lying and that I was being a jerk. So am I the jerk for calling out my mom as well as rejecting my stepdad as being the one who walks me down the aisle for my wedding? I don't think you're the jerk at all. And honestly, it really seems like the way your mom is acting is really desperate. Like, that is not a good look. That really is kind of weird. And honestly, a small part of me kind of feels bad for her as well. She recognizes that her husband is only her husband, but not also a father figure in your life. And honestly, at this point, there's no chance of changing that. Like, that time is gone and he should have done a better job of stepping in. I mean, he did openly hate the original poster's dad for years. Like, the original poster saw that growing up. They saw the way their stepdad treated their actual dad. And I don't know about you, but if I was in their shoes, I would probably feel some kind of animosity towards this stepdad as well if I saw this kind of behavior. So no, you are not the jerk. You have every right to step aside and say, no, my stepdad is not walking me down the aisle, because at the end of the day, this is your wedding, nobody else's. You're the only one that gets a say in what does and does not happen. And in my opinion, if you don't want your stepdad to walk you down the aisle, then that honestly is the end of the conversation. My friend's entitled ex-boyfriend begs her to let him move back in because he has nowhere else to go. And I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's delusional narcissism in my life. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that all the names in this story have been changed. So to start things off, my soft-hearted friend Emma finally broke up with a parasite she once called her boyfriend. Kyle has 100 excuses for why everyone else is the problem. His bosses are mean and expect too much of him, like, I don't know, showing up on time for work. His coworkers create a hostile work environment because they refuse to do his job for him. He's also realized that the people he called friends are not really his friends, mostly because they won't refer him for openings at their companies. Kyle also thinks that he has really bad luck. At the beginning of this month, one of these friends told him that their living situation is not working out. Kyle needs to find other accommodations by the end of the month. And as you can probably guess, he did nothing until this week. He had been praying that his friend was a real one who wouldn't really kick him out on the street. However, today his friend asked Kyle if he needed help packing. I mean, the month is over in 1 week after all. In an absolute panic, Kyle called Emma. He begged her to let him stay. All expenses paid by her, by the way, until he gets back on his feet. People he thought were friends have shown who they really are and abandoned him. They abandoned him in his hour of need, and for what? Something as small as money? I mean, don't remind him that all of his friends hosted him at some point. He not only didn't pay rent, he also expected them to pay his living expenses. His friends, he would never do the same for them. Anyways, Emma usually has a hard time saying no, but Kyle took advantage of her so badly that she finally said, I don't think that's a good idea. And then she blocked him everywhere, and then called her scary sister to tell him off and threaten him away. Oh, poor Kyle. He was turned away by everyone, abandoned, forsaken, and they knew he had nowhere else to go. And his mom's house does not count as somewhere to go. His mom is, in his words, a self-absorbed absolute jerk. A good parent doesn't expect her 37-year-old son to hold down a job and pay rent. A good parent doesn't make him do chores and maintain a level of order in the common areas. I mean, a roommate wouldn't even expect this, right? Nah, Nah, just kidding. Dropping the sarcastic tone, I'm so proud of Emma for not falling for this in the slightest. I do hope he gets his life in order, but even if he doesn't, at least I'm glad that he's not my friend's problem anymore. Yeah, that does not sound like a good friend in the slightest. Like, let's look at the facts real quick. This guy is a user. He uses people to get by and tries to guilt trip people just to get more. He's always looking for more handouts while never giving anything in return. And that's so unfair. That makes him the awful friend, not the other way around. Kyle sounds like one of those people that really just causes chaos and then looks up and is like, wow, the world's against me. I can't believe I have this bad luck. No, you literally did this to yourself. Like, for starters, you can't even show up to work on time. Your coworkers really don't like you because you're trying to shift your work onto their shoulders. And then with this track record of being an awful employee, you expect your friends to stick their necks on the line just so they can get you a spot in their company. Like, seriously, if I was friends with Kyle, there's no way I would stick up for him. He would just fail me completely and really treat me like garbage in the process. Like, it's really just not fair in the slightest. But when it comes to Emma turning him down and blocking him everywhere, that is honestly so fantastic. He absolutely had this coming. He treated her like garbage, he was nothing but a parasite to her, and he was clearly causing problems in her life. So I agree with the original poster. This guy absolutely ran out of second chances, and your friend is absolutely going to be a lot better off without Kyle in her life. My boyfriend's entitled mother is gaslighting and guilt-tripping all of us just so she can have a free place to stay in our home. But after countless days of dealing with her lies and all of her garbage, we've decided that enough is enough, and she is now being ordered to get out of our home. And I'm honestly so blown away by her entitlement. Here's what happened. I've lived with my boyfriend, his brother, and his brother's girlfriend ever since they were evicted from my boyfriend's mother's house. And this was a few years ago. Before she was evicted, she made a deal with her employers to turn her big house owned by her father into a senior living facility. She stopped working as much while spending almost all her money in secret. Her employers ended up letting her go and getting them all evicted. And now there is a lawsuit involved. Her and her father stayed in hotel rooms together. Her daughter, who was still a minor, had to go live with her father. Now, for some additional context, my boyfriend's mother spent so much of her then husband's money that she ended up leaving him a lot of debt. They divorced, and she has always continued to talk garbage about him in general and as a parent to literally everyone, including me and her kids. She had most of the custody, so she collected a lot of child support, which was not always spent on the kids. She even tried to continue to collect child support from him for my boyfriend once he turned 18. After a bit of their mom staying with their father in hotel rooms, as well as running out of money, she begged us to let them both come stay with us rent-free. My boyfriend's brother and his girlfriend were very hesitant to allow this because she has lied to my boyfriend's brother about money situations so much in the past. We all still agreed to give them a place to stay while she got her stuff back together. Our only condition was that she had to get a job as soon as possible. She ended up going back and forth on if she was getting a job or not, but in the end she completely refused, so we told her that they had to go. They went back to staying in hotel rooms together. Her father is old and showing signs of dementia, and she doesn't handle it the best. She ends up telling us that she cannot handle taking care of him, and she ends up arranging for him to fly back to his home country to live there with other family members that can take care of him. She continues to be jobless, staying in hotels by herself for a while, and ends up meeting this other guy who is also homeless, and this homeless guy is in his 30s. They ended up staying together in hotels and splitting the cost of the rooms, the food, as well as cigarettes and the herb, if you know what I mean. And at one point she ends up getting a job, but ends up quitting because she didn't like it, all without having any kind of backup plan. She continues to be jobless for the whole rest of the time with this guy, and even purchases cats and dogs, claiming that she can't work because she has to take care of them. This goes on for a while, and she starts telling us how rude and verbally awful he is, and how she cannot live there anymore, or she will probably no longer be alive, if you know what I mean. She begs us again if she can move in rent-free, gaslighting and guilt-tripping the entire time. We have an in-person meeting with her to tell her yes, she can stay with us, but only under our conditions. She will have to get a job before even moving in, and she will not smoke cigarettes because we rent, and our place is non-smoking. And she almost caught our last house on fire smoking cigarettes in the backyard, and she will be completely transparent about money and all of that, and she will not have any pets. She starts saying she would rather stay with him if she can't bring her dog, gaslighting us that she will just have to go back to the emotionally awful place. Finally, we tell her that you can bring the one small dog, and only if you potty train her to go outside instead of on our carpet. carpet. She did not have a job the day she came, claiming she will be applying like crazy to get one as soon as possible. So we let it slide, telling her that she'd better have one in a month. She starts spending all of her free time decorating the house with ugly and trashy decorations, and it's all stuff that no one wants up. She started doing arts and crafts, she started sewing using our supplies, as well as tanning, offering to do things like rearranging our whole bedroom, etc., not really taking any time to get her stuff together, and applying to get a job. But still, she continues to ask for money for random things, such as wigs, sewing supplies, more money so she can vape or buy the herb. She even again goes back and forth, saying she will get a job and then just completely refusing to do so. She even had one lined up and quit the day before she was supposed to start for literally no reason. We tell her again she can't live with us if she won't, so she finally starts to put in the time applying like crazy. She finally got a job after 2 months, but is barely being scheduled any hours at minimum wage. She isn't even close to taking home $1,000 a month, but instead continues to ask us to buy her stuff while she spends her money on random craft supplies while still buying the herb and vapes. She then asked me if she should still keep applying to other places, as they're not scheduling her very much at all, and I say to her, yes, but of course my advice is not taken. The whole time she has been causing arguments in the group chat with all of us, and this is all over random things, like her assuming that I was mad at her for laying down over a door closing a little too loud. She had also lied about smoking cigarettes in the house. She has barely tried to potty train her dog. She says rude, horribly racist and homophobic things constantly, as well as making transphobic comments. She's trying to boss us around in our house. She lies about legal problems and how much money she has and makes. She took some of our groceries without asking. She has broken things, and when asked about it, she just ignored us and did not apologize. She also acted entitled to our belongings, as well as so many other problems. Also, she continued telling us the entire time that living with us sucked, stating that we're awful for having these rules for her, and that she has somewhere else better that she could stay, where she will actually get more help. And it's not like we can just have a mature conversation with her when a problem arises, because in her eyes, she is never wrong. She is completely entitled to her son's money, as well as all of his things, and on top of that, she's entitled to being taken care of and having things bought for her. She can never admit when she is wrong, and instead she takes it as a personal attack and just gets angry with us, shutting us down without ever understanding our side, or even trying to apologize. Now, after the last fight that she started, we told her that she has a month to figure out where she is going, because she can no longer stay with us. We are so over it. There are 21 days left, and yes, I am using a countdown because I am that excited to have the house to ourselves again. We will see how hard she starts to gaslight us and guilt trip us when it gets closer to the day she's gotta leave, because you can bet she's not going to want to leave. But this lady will no longer be on our shoulders. Hopefully, this will be her wake-up call, and she will finally be able to start taking getting her stuff together and being able to provide for herself a lot more seriously. Yeah, this lady is absolutely entitled. She is seriously just using you and your boyfriend and his brother. Like seriously, she can't do anything for herself. First of all, there's no excuse for her not getting a job. She could easily get something and make some kind of money, because in my opinion, in this situation, something is better than nothing. Sure, she's gonna get a job that probably sucks, and it's probably like something in customer service, but you know what? It's better than not being able to make rent, or at least like pay for your bills and stuff like that. Like seriously, you need to work. But this lady didn't want to work. She wanted to stay at home and play with wigs and start sewing all the time. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not gonna become a business overnight. And the original poster has it right. This entitled lady absolutely needs a wake-up call. She has clearly been using her kids to get by her entire life. She has not done anything to better herself or improve her situation, and that is entirely her own fault. So good for you and your boyfriend for deciding to get her out of here. The way she's acting is incredibly inappropriate, and honestly, everything wrong in her life is quite literally her own problem. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for selling our house without informing my wife first? Here's what happened. My wife and I have been married for many years, but before we got married, I had built up a substantial wealth. When we got married, I opted for a prenuptial agreement and complete separation of assets. She also had a significant premarital wealth. Besides the house that we currently live in, I still own a beautiful apartment in the same city that I usually rent out, but it's currently vacant. Over the past 2 years, we've had many discussions about moving to a smaller town and getting a house near the beach. And 2 months ago, we bought the house for our upcoming move. We've already made the renovations we wanted, we've bought furniture, and we will be moving into the new house very soon. Since we won't be living in this city anymore, I didn't see a reason to keep the house that we're currently living in, and so I sold it without notifying my wife. Now, considering that it's solely my asset, I didn't see the need to inform her in advance. Plus, selling and buying property is always a stressful process. On the day I finalized the sale, I told her that I had sold the house, and she was furious with me for not letting her know. She mentioned that she still needs a residence in this city and intends on coming back here frequently. I explained to her that we still have the apartment, which we can use whenever we need to be in the city, so there honestly really shouldn't be an issue. But she remains upset with me, claiming that I didn't treat her like a wife by not involving her in such an important decision. On the other hand, I believe I didn't leave her without an address in the city, and the house was always exclusively my asset, just as she has her own wealth. She argues that it's a completely different situation because it's the house that we've been living in, and we are moving in the next few days. So am I the jerk for selling our house without informing my wife? What should I do? Honestly, I think your wife has a point. Like, sure, it's your house and it's under your name, but guess what? She still lived in it. So the fact that you up and sold it without even talking to her first, that in my opinion is incredibly rude. Wouldn't you want to discuss this first just so she can be in the loop? By not telling her, you literally treated your wife like a roommate. It kind of feels like you just pulled the rug out from underneath her and you made a decision for the both of them by selling that house. And again, sure, it is your house and logistically you did the right thing, but let's look at this practically. Why would you not have the common courtesy of just telling her exactly what you planned on doing? Instead, you almost like kept it a secret and said, by the way, I'm selling the house. I don't know, to me it just seems like a really big scumbag thing to do, and it kind of like throws a wrench in the wheel. I know if I lived in that house for a while, I would get attached to it and have some kind of sentimental value associated with it. I mean, you have to communicate with your wife and tell her what's going on. So yes, in my opinion, I think you're definitely the jerk in this situation. I think you really should have discussed this with your wife ahead of time, because honestly, the way you went about doing this was incredibly rude. An entitled mom is changing and messing with all the rules and regulations of the apartment complex that I live in, and she is so frustrating and annoying to deal with. I'm now at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. To start things out, honestly, I just need to vent. There's a very annoying entitled mom that I'm dealing with, and honestly, I just need to get this off my chest. So anyways, I live in a rental. We have a shared garden, a laundry room, as well as other amenities. It's a mix of rentals and owned apartments, and most residents, including myself, have lived here for several years. So that's to say that you generally know who comes and goes around here. Over the summer, this lady has started coming and going all over the property. It's the mom of a newer resident, who actually seems nice enough, but this mom is entitled in a slightly different way, and she has slowly begun taking over all the shared spaces of our building. These are just a few of the examples that we currently are dealing with. For starters, the entitled mother leaves passive-aggressive notes when she's dissatisfied with something. For example, she'll be like, "This machine is broken, who's gonna fix it?" And she puts this on the washing machine, despite the fact that there's a manual next to the machine that clearly states a number that you need to call if you want it fixed. Then she'll say something like, "Can we all maybe remember to empty the lint collector in the dryer? It's not that hard." And then she will just get up and leave and not empty the lint collector herself. She often wants a specific resident to deal with it, but doesn't address him through anything other than notes. And this guy is in no way a janitor of any kind. The entitled mother also opens all the doors and windows in the basement and refuses to close any of them. A passive-aggressive note informed me it's because the basement is too humid. Now here's the thing, I can understand if you're going to be in the area and need to have access to the basement, but she just opens everything and then leaves. If you go to close them, she will go back down, open them again, and then leave again. I came down the other day, and not only was everything open, but the shared laundry room keys were on the outside of the door, and she was nowhere to be found. This is not a low-crime area, and she's putting us all at risk to be robbed in a way where insurance won't cover anything. This is also kind of triggering for me, as I was subjected to arson in a previous housing situation due to this exact behavior. She also had a phase where she'd prop open the front doors and all the fire doors as well, but that has thankfully and fortunately not stuck around. We have a really nice shared apple tree in the garden, and the apples are plenty and delicious. It's a situation where you take exactly what you need. A neighbor of mine went to grab an apple for herself and her kid, and immediately the entitled mother flings open her window and says, "Don't take those aren't ripe yet." The neighbor was like, "Well, I'll take my chances, but thanks." The entitled mother then huffs and puffs and says, "Suit yourself, but you're gonna have a bad time." Like, what kind of person has Apple entitlement? I honestly just don't get it. She also decided that the laundry booking system was bad and decided to implement her own system. Before, you just booked the laundry room and you'd have it available in the book time slots. With this new system, you've got to book the individual machine in the individual hours that you plan to use each machine. Now, of course, the new system has a passive-aggressive note attached to it, and the first time I booked time slots, she actually deleted them. Not because she wanted to use the slot for herself, but she did that only because I had done it wrong. And honestly, I was so angry when she did this. We also have a no loose dogs in the shared garden rule, and it's mostly to avoid random dogs taking a dump anywhere they want. But it's not the only reason that we have this. This entitled mother does not care. Her daughter's chihuahua is constantly off the leash and running everywhere. In fact, the other night, I heard it try to attack a cat. A few weeks ago, my kitchen started smelling really weird, like a chemical, and it was really toxic. The smell kept getting stronger, and I could not figure out where it was coming from. I went to the basement, and some areas were also very pungent. I asked a neighbor if he knew where the smell was coming from, and he helped me search for the source. It turns out that the entitled mother had been soaking some wooden fence posts in paint thinner and thought that it was a great idea to leave them to dry in the tool closet right below my kitchen, sending all those nice toxic fumes right up through the vents. Thankfully, my neighbor got this entitled mother to move them all. Now, I want to reiterate, this lady does not live here. The daughter has a really busy job, so the entitled mother is around a lot. I suspect that she's there just to take care of the dogs, and evidently also to take care of the daughter's laundry. Because of this, she feels entitled to micromanage all the shared space. Several other residents are really sick of her antics, and she has been confronted at least once by the janitor man's mom, who also owns a rental in the building. I just needed to get this off my chest because I have no idea how to address this, and honestly, I really don't know what to do. Wow, that sounds absolutely obnoxious. I'm pretty sure that I would lose my mind if I had someone like that walking around my apartment complex, doing all sorts of stuff at the expense of literally everyone around them. Like, there's no way I'm gonna put up with that for a second. People like that seriously need to get a life and go away. It's mind-blowing to me that this person doesn't even live here, and they're trying to change everything about this apartment complex. I mean, for me personally, the final straw, in my opinion, would be her deleting my time slot to wash my clothes. I would lose my mind. There's no way I would put up with that for a second. So honestly, I'm kind of surprised that the original poster, as well as several other neighbors, haven't gone together and maybe made like a signature packet and given it to the landlord or the person that owns the building, explaining to them, hey, this lady's bothering all of us, and these are the things that she's done, and these are the people that don't want her around anymore. As if you want to take like a strength in numbers kind of situation. Because this lady sounds crazy. There's no way I would want to put up with that. Like, I would absolutely start complaining, as well as taking pictures and getting recordings of all the stupid stuff she's doing. Because seriously, her behavior is absolutely uncalled for. And if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would do something to make her stop. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for being angry at my girlfriend after she's become very distant and very standoffish all of a sudden? Because now at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my girlfriend are now dating for a little over a year and a half. For a big part of the time of our relationship, we had only a few arguments, but nothing serious. Even when we had only a little time, we at least texted or called. We also tried to find solution to some problem or find some kind of compromise between the two of us. But for the last 4 months, she started to give more attention to her Instagram profile, where she's giving information about herbs and dreams and stuff like that. She's also doing this in our birth language, so even with my help, it's not getting much attention. It's her choice and her hobby, but it seems like she's prioritizing it and not texting or even answering my text messages, but making posts and stories about it. When we have sleepovers or just meetups, she's giving at least half the time to her Instagram profile. But when I address this, she gets angry and annoyed at me, just because I want a little more attention. But that's only one problem. What became our tradition is that when there's a special occasion, like an anniversary or Valentine's Day or anything like that, we both ask each other, what is your wish? So when our anniversary of 1.5 years came close, I asked her the question, what is your wish? She told me her wish and then nothing else. She didn't even ask me the same question. Now, I tried to give her some kind of hint, but she didn't get any of my hints. So when asked what the hint meant, I told her, and it was only then that she asked me the question. And then there was a problem to her about my wish. And I mean, I get
get that, but she never tried to find at least some kind of compromise. She never asked if there was something different that I might want, because if she did ask me, I would at least answer with a wish that I know wouldn't be a problem. The moment where I think I might be a jerk happened about 2 days ago. We were out and there was an argument between me and my father about my girlfriend sleeping at our house. She then suddenly chose that she wants to sleep at her house, even though we had the sleepover planned for some time. Again, she didn't try to find some kind of compromise, where, for example, I could sleep at her house instead of her sleeping at my house or something like that. So when my uncle drove us to her house, I was more distant towards her, letting her lay on my lap but not hugging her or kissing her or anything like that. When we were next to her house, I just said goodbye to her. Later, she texted asking why I was acting that way. I texted her about the sleepover, and we both ended up getting angry at each other. It's better now, but I think I may have been a jerk by acting distant. So I have to ask, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, it kind of seems like you guys just don't talk about things going on. Like, everything in this post had like a lot of assumptions about how she's feeling, as well as like what you think is going on, without straight up asking her, hey, what's going on here? Like, for example, if my girlfriend had a hobby and she was posting stuff on Instagram or something like that, and it was really occupying a lot of her time, and I felt like she wasn't giving any time to me, I would definitely talk to her and try and work through it. And the same thing goes for like the whole wish situation. Like, maybe being more upfront and tell her exactly how you feel about that. Like, maybe explain, hey, this is really special to me. I want this to be a special occasion for the two of us. Let's try and find something that both of us can enjoy and make each other's anniversary a little bit better. Or some kind of like further explanation. Dropping hints or subtle cues, in my opinion, is not effective, and in some cases you just need to be upfront, and that includes acting distant and refusing to talk to her. Like, I don't know about you, but the cold shoulder never solves anything. If anything, it just kind of makes things a little bit worse. So hopefully this can all get worked out with some like proper communication between the two of you, because it kind of seems like you guys just don't talk about stuff, and that, in my opinion, could probably solve a lot of your problems. An entitled dad freaks out after we call the cops to kick him out of our restaurant, claiming that we're the reason that their kids were acting up and running all over the place. And I've never been more disturbed by somebody else's sense of entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So honestly, the main player in this story is the dad. This guy kept screaming at me that his kids are just being kids, and that's what he kept yelling when the cops showed up to escort out the remaining parents and their children, all from a small birthday party in the bowling alley my restaurant is connected to, and the one that I serve. Now, for some background, I was the lane runner for the restaurant and alley last Friday night, which is when this altercation transpired. For anyone who doesn't know, a lane runner is what you call the server whose main responsibility is waiting on the patrons and guests in the bowling alley. Friday nights are my surprisingly small league nights, where 3-man bowling teams take up only 13 to 16 lanes, along with the friends and family in tow. I tend to everyone solo with some support from the server that mans the restaurant itself. And this is basically how the verbal exchange went down between me and this entitled dad, who was also holding his toddler daughter as he stormed past me and towards the front counter. I say to him, "Excuse me, sir, the parents in your party were warned on numerous occasions to keep your children under better supervision. Unfortunately, this wasn't addressed diligently, and we had to ask your party to leave. Some of you are refusing to do so, and that's why the cops are here right now. I'll explain the reasons why your party was told to leave." The entitled dad then chimes in and screams, "But they're just kids." I say to him, "Yes, and these kids are running through and on the lanes and the pathway. They're getting hurt and causing accidents. This is not a playground. This is where the numerous complaints started, and it's just beginning to pile up." But again, this entitled father says the exact same thing. "But they're just kids." So I have to say it again. Yes, I understand they're children, and I have a few myself. I personally almost split hot food and beverages from my cart and trays when the kids from your group suddenly ran out into the pathway and into the lobby and other areas of this establishment. One child even laid down on the floor in front of me when I yelled beep beep coming through, and they still didn't get up. In fact, a toddler almost walked out of the facility twice as I left the restaurant, and I had to play goalie until her mom saw me and came running over. The dad is still not getting it. He says, "They're just being kids. You put us at the end of the lanes closest to the restaurant and exit. This isn't our fault." And honestly, at this point, I was so blown away by this man's entitlement that I was completely astonished by this guy's horrible attitude. I say to him once again, "Sir, that section was the only area to place your party due to the league taking up the majority of the lanes. This was also explained to you, and all of you agreed to be placed there when you all showed up. We have a party room that you could have reserved beforehand." But the dad once again screams that they're just being kids. So I continue to lay down the law. I say to him, did you know that another toddler similar to yours, witnessed by other guests and patrons, was walking up to the wax lane and fell down and bumped her head? Her mom was literally a few feet away. The dad said, not my daughter, they're just being kids. You should not have put us right next to the diner entrance and exit. I say to him, these kids were barely being supervised, and regardless of what lanes your party was placed at, the outcome would have been the same. In reality, it would have been worse. These league members don't play. They respect this establishment and would have told your children to quit the horseplay and stop running around. They would tell you parents to do a better job in supervising them, especially for the safety of your children and the other patrons here. Again, this is not a playground. The dad then interrupts me and says, you obviously don't have any kids and you don't know what it's like. You shouldn't have kids in here then. At this point, I just had to hold on to my composure. I said to him, sir, I have kids. My 9 and 10-year-old sons are here right now, and they know better than to run around like that. And every Saturday morning is the youth league, and all the lanes are taken up by children the same age as yours and older, and they all respect the bowling alley and have parents and coaches that keep them focused and behaved. The dad then starts walking towards the exit. Screw this. This is garbage. You're an idiot, and this bowling alley is so stupid. I can't believe you called the cops over kids. They're just being kids. Now at this point, I lost my composure. I look at him and I say, really? You're seriously gonna keep interrupting me and ignore the reasons your party is being kicked out? You're just gonna walk away and discard the safety issues and hazards caused by your party? You're seriously just gonna blame it on the kids and not on your duty as a responsible parent? This guy then chimes in again and says, oh, shut up. I'm not taking any of this. They're just kids and you're a bunch of idiots. At this point, I was done and I was so angry. So I screamed right back at him. I said, then leave and don't ever come back. Do better as parents. The dad then eventually joins the other adults and is immediately handled by the other cop, who begins to talk to him. The entitled angry dad's demeanor suddenly changed, and he was much more relaxed as they were all escorted out. The league bowlers watching this exchange clapped and whistled for me on how I was standing up to this obviously clueless and entitled dad and his group. The other officer and the pair of cops that showed up walked towards me and told me to relax and requested my statement, which I happily divulged. A couple league members walked up as well and acted as my witnesses to verify and attest to my beginning professional attempt in explaining the reasons for kicking the party out. And I didn't call the police. My buddy working the alley counter did, and he had to deal with more than I did. That group was a nightmare, and they'll probably be banned after the managers discuss the incident later today. As a fellow parent with elementary school aged children, I cannot even fathom this dad's reasoning. The lack of discipline displayed by these kids is a direct reflection of their parents' neglect to supervise properly and diligently. And on top of that, they were military soldiers, their spouses, and their children. It's disappointing and sad to see members of the armed forces behaving this way while also doing the bare minimum to correct it. And they didn't even apologize. Now, I truly respect the members of our armed forces, but there will always be a group or individuals that don't measure up and sometimes tarnish the reputation of these branches. My kids do not act up like that in public. I attempt to explain the importance of situational awareness as well as etiquette and public safety to both of them. I also have them practice numerous times daily. Now, with over 2 decades of experience in the restaurant industry, I've never experienced such gross negligence and disgusting entitlement this group displayed. And honestly, it won't be the last time this happens either. Wow, that guy seriously had a problem. And that problem was the fact that his kids were awful and he is an awful parent. Like seriously, look at the way he's acting. He is seriously screaming at this person who's trying to get things under control as if it's their fault that their kids are acting like idiots. And that, in my opinion, is so inappropriate. Like seriously, that is not okay. There's no reason to act like that, and there's no reason to come after this poor server just because you're in the wrong. And trust me, they absolutely are in the wrong. This guy was not watching his kids. None of the parents were watching their kids, as a matter of fact. And the blame for these incidents literally falls on the dad as well as all the other parents. Like these kids were running into servers that had hot meals and hot food. Like, okay, you don't want to watch your kids, but I bet the second any of that hot food pours on one of your kids, you're gonna freak out and be like, wow, I can't believe you let this happen. When in reality, their negligence is the reason this happened. I'm gonna say something pretty brave, but it's not that hard to train your kids and get them to do exactly what you say. It takes practice and a lot of hard work, and sure, there's extenuating circumstances in any situation, but overall, if the parents are firm and they actually train their kids right, then their kids will listen to them, even the rebellious ones. Because in my opinion, the original poster has it right. The poor attitude attitude and the lack of discipline from the children is a direct reflection of these awful parents. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbor's son keeps leaving tire marks in my yard, and I was honestly so frustrated with his behavior all the way up until this guy got put in jail. Here's what happened. So at the time, several years ago, I lived on a corner lot. There was a neighbor who lived behind me with his driveway facing the other street. He worked in construction and for the most part was friendly but very distant. Generally, I really had no problems. He just did his thing and I did mine, but we definitely did not talk that much. He had a kid who didn't really live there but was over quite frequently. This kid owned a pit bull, but even though it was his dog, the dog lived at the neighbor's house because he had to move around a lot. Now this was mildly annoying because it would frequently get out and run around my yard, but we would just call the neighbor and let him know and he'd come and get it. The kid also liked to park in my yard along the street, not in his dad's driveway and not along the street in front of his own dad's house, but well over the property line on my lawn in the back corner. He also liked to pull out hard, and his excessively heavy personal driving truck not only wore a huge bare spot on my lawn, but also 6-inch deep ruts in my lawn along the street because when he pulled out, he would frequently drive with one side of the tires on my lawn for literally nearly 50 feet before completely pulling out into the street. After heavy rains, his tires would cause a ton of damage. Now, if he had parked there only occasionally, I wouldn't have cared in the slightest, but he was there at least once a week, if not more frequently, and has caused some very visible damage to my yard, so I noticed it, and it bugged me to the point that every time he parked there, my attention was immediately grabbed. Now, I didn't think that he was being malicious or anything like that, just maybe entirely not thinking or caring about anybody else, figuring that my yard was fair game for parking, and it was only grass, so why would he care? So I gently brought this up to the neighbor and told him his son's parking on my lawn really bothered me, and he said that he would talk to him about it. I even asked if he could bring in a yard of gravel to fill in the depression where the kid always parked his truck, so I wouldn't have a muddy puddle of ugly dirt there. I just figured it was a dumb kid who would at least forget from time to time, so as long as I didn't have the hole, I could live with it. I also asked for some fill dirt to fix the long rut. The neighbor worked in construction and said he had access to all these materials, but he just never got around to it. Then, one day, a detective from Fugitive Recovery at the Sheriff's Department came knocking on the door. It turns out the kid was wanted for a parole violation and had been avoiding capture for a couple of years. The kid, maybe in his early 20s, was also an offender who had to be registered, if you know what I mean. Whatever he had done was enough for them to be looking for him, but it wasn't quite a full-blown manhunt. Apparently, they had been able to track him down, so they were knocking on all the doors around his dad's house, asking everybody if they had seen him. So all I could do was tell them exactly what I knew. A guy that the neighbor called his kid, but I didn't know his name, was coming to the house frequently, was driving a very large and shiny new model truck with a couple of distinctive features, and he would always park in the same spot, and that's when I noted the mud and the ruts that I was dealing with. The detective gave me his card and asked me to call him if I ever saw him again. Eventually, I looked up the name the detective had provided, and that person was no longer on the fugitive list, and the registration list indicated that his place of residence was prison. Wow, that is honestly insane. Who would have thought that the guy who was leaving tire marks and leaving deep ruts in your yard was actually somebody on the run from the law for doing something absolutely horrifying? Seriously, this guy absolutely deserved to get caught, and it's really funny that the fact he was not parking his car inside the driveway, but rather on your property, somehow led the police to finding this guy. Seriously, all the neighbor had to do was fill in the ruts in the grass. He just had to get gravel or some kind of sand or something to fill it in, but this guy never got around to it, so when it came time for the police to show up, you basically were like, yep, I know a few things, and honestly, I would have done the same thing. So good for you for basically getting back in a roundabout way. You obviously didn't plan on this happening, but you know what? It did happen. And it sounds like your involvement in this situation discarded one more scumbag back to prison where they belong. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for stealing money from a pawnbroker who was just trying to rip me off with their awful prices? Here's what happened. So to start things out, my name is Rodney and I'm a law student from India. Rodney is not my real name. I have been under a lot of stress. I am very poor and my mother lives on a pension and she sends all of her money to me for law school. However, she desperately needs the money more. She has no food at all
ill, so I have to drop out of school in hopes that she can feed her and my sister's bellies. For the sake of this story, I will call my sister Donna and my mother Mom. I live in a rundown motel land, and I hate being around the people. My only friend is the other law student who was also forced to drop out. We'll call him Robert, also not his real name. And I have found myself really dreading his company ever since the theft. You see, my father passed away, and I have been forced to pawn off his belongings, stuff like his watch or his walking stick, all of this over to a pawnbroker who lives with her sister. She never gives a fair price and purposefully shortens the time of the days, but there's no other options for money since I'm so poor. She's commonly physically awful towards animals and her stepsister. Also, everybody in the community absolutely hates her, saying that it would be better if she was gone. So I hatched the best crime. While she was busy in the other room, I picked her lock and took out 1,700 Indian rupees, which is roughly $20 US. After hiding them in my pocket, I waited for her to come back after fixing and locking back up the safe. She entered the room, didn't notice anything, and then offered me a bad deal. But I refused and I walked away. Now, here's my reasoning. Isn't this better for society? Isn't stealing from a bad woman so I can feed my family okay? So in India, the woman has little rights when a man wants to marry her. In this case, my sister Donna is engaged to a terrible man. He is very wealthy and rich, but he is also 56 years old, which is more than twice my sister's age. He has made awful comments about how he likes to draw in poor young women so that they can look at their husbands as their gods and their saviors. My sister is a very smart woman, and she deserves a better life than that. Also, my friend is in love with my sister as well. They would make a wonderful couple. However, they are both poor, and my sister wants to help me and my mother. Yesterday, I went for a drink at the bar, and I met a nice old man. He was a bit drunk and ranted about how poor his family is, but sadly, I later found out that after a week or so, he had passed away. I visited his family and gave all the money I had to help pay for a funeral and food for them, and I even gave them the stolen money. The kids are so happy, and even his wife finds this to be a miracle. Now, as I sit here in my rundown motel room, I feel the weight of guilt on my shoulders. I stole from a woman who did not deserve to have her hard-earned money taken from her. I am thinking about turning myself in, but no one believed me when I said that I did it. Maybe I'm just like Napoleon, and maybe I can get away with it. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, first off, it is never a good idea to steal from somebody, especially a place of business. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, how much you dislike them, or how little they do for your community, or even all of the horrible prices they might have going on at their store. It is never the answer to steal from them and take money out of their safe. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. You could have possibly gone to jail just by doing that. Like, this is not some kind of like Robin Hood scenario where you're doing this for the greater good or anything like that. What you did, regardless of your intentions, was theft. And that, in my opinion, is not okay. So yes, I do think you're the jerk in this situation. I think stealing from them was wrong, and that is definitely not a good answer to any of your financial problems. My boyfriend screamed and freaked out on me after I tried to do him a favor and put his laundry away in the proper place. And now I'm seriously considering going back to my own home and giving him some space for a while. Here's what happened. So we've been dating for over a year. We recently moved in together, and for me, it's more part-time as I own a home already, but I spend a lot of time with him. He has never really lived on his own and thinks his mom does all the chores and cooking for his dad and her after working a full day for fun. So I expected this to some extent. For reference, my boyfriend is 31 years old and I'm 24 years old. Yesterday, we had an issue and I feel very disrespected. He has had his laundry sitting in a basket on top of the dryer for over a week, and I needed to do my own stuff. I have helped him fold and put away his clothes before, and even bought the closet hangers and organizers for him when he got here, so I was aware of where things went. When he came in and saw his clothes were moved, he absolutely blew up on me. His face changed and he just kept saying, "You put my clothes away. Do you even know where they go?" To which I said, "Yes, I guess," because I was so caught off guard by how mad he was. He stomped upstairs to check, saw that they were in the right place, and then thanked me from there. I just said nothing. And then when he came back down, he said to me, "Did you hear me? Thank you for putting my stuff away." I asked him if it was the right place, and he said to me, "Yes, this time. You also shouldn't fold my shirts. It'll save you time. We just need to communicate." I was floored when he said that. It felt like the biggest backhanded compliment, basically him saying, "You did it right this time, but your extra labor is annoying, and you should have asked for permission, so I was right to get in your face about it." He then asked me to feed the stray cats
outside with food I paid for myself, and I said to him, okay, and I went to grab my pants and socks because, I was standing in my underwear. He then got extremely mad at me and went himself and then told me I hadn't communicated because according to him, I immediately got up to go do something else, and me saying okay could have meant anything, so I was clearly not listening to him. I just felt so shut down. I felt uncomfortable and I felt unsafe at this point. No matter what I said to him to try and explain what was going on, he was spinning it back around as me being the issue and him being completely innocent. So defending myself was completely worthless. I called my mom to talk to her about it, and she brought up that when my parents moved the extra table I had up here, he had gotten mad at me for cleaning up 2 of my nicer chairs and including them because he didn't know he was getting chairs. I don't know why he thought I would just give him the table or how on earth we would be using it, as he didn't have any chairs in the apartment, but he definitely never thanked me for that either. Later in the night, he could tell I was still upset about this and apologized again. He said it was thoughtful and he should have been more appreciative, but he came in upset about work and took it all out on me. I don't think I consider this acceptable, and I'm considering going home and staying for a long time, even though he has been begging me to live here full time. I am emotionally exhausted, and he defaults to assuming I'm incompetent and out to get him in some kind of way for showing him kindness. I've got most of the day to figure it out, but I feel bad that he would come home to an empty apartment. So honestly, at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this guy acts like a complete toddler. He is 7 years older than the original poster, and they're acting like a complete jerk anytime nice things are done for them. Like, why would you freak out because your laundry's done? If anything, you should have been like, oh, thank you so much, that was really kind of you, or something along those lines. Instead, this guy was like, wow, why'd you move my stuff? Where is it? Like, she does live with you, right? Like, she's in your house and spending time with you. You guys are a couple after all. Why would you be surprised that she actually moves stuff and cleans stuff up? Like, that's a really considerate thing to do for somebody that you care about. So it's honestly kind of mind-blowing that he would freak out and be like, no, I can't believe you did that. That behavior is really inappropriate. Like, if he seriously yells at you for doing him a favor, I would hate to see how he acts when you actually make a mistake. Now listen, I've had stressful days at work as well. I've had days where I've wanted to pull my hair out, and I've just been absolutely exhausted and so sick of what was going on. But honestly, that is not an excuse to treat your significant other like garbage. Like, seriously, his behavior is absolutely atrocious. No amount of stress or anything going on at work should ever justify his behavior. So truly, you are not at fault. Your boyfriend is being hyper aggressive for no reason, as well as being incredibly weird, and I honestly don't blame you for wanting to take some time away after the way he recently treated you. An entitled Karen demands that I work around the clock just so her needs can be met, while also stating that if I don't do exactly as she says, she's going to ensure that I get fired for not doing my job. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I own a hot tub repair and maintenance company, and one of the services that we offer is hot tub water refills, where we truck in the water to fill the tub if the well at the house can't produce enough, or if there is a requirement. One of the wells at a home I service went dry, and this does happen sometimes, and it has a backup 500-gallon drum of water. So the property manager asked if I could fill their tank, and I said, yep, no problem, I could do that for sure. And by the way, the well still does produce water, it's just not as much as needed. So usually, if you can augment the tank, then the well will recover, and you are usually in good shape. At the time, my truck was in the shop, so I borrowed my parents' SUV, hooked up my water trailer, filled up the tank, and then transported it to their house. I would have normally declined, but the property manager was desperate, and I'm the only company in town with water transport equipment. Fast forward, and they are all good to go, and the entitled Karen of the story is set to arrive that evening. Just a day and a half later, the house has run out again. The property manager called me and asked if there was anything I could do, as well as if I could probably take a look at it. It's Sunday, and the bulk water fill location is closed, and I had no truck or ability to tow it. The property manager offered a new house for them to stay at, but the entitled parents didn't want a different house, so I took a small load of water over with my 1958 Jeep. I filled my small tank and trailer at my house and brought over 257 gallons of water. And trust me when I say this was a total pain in the neck. Once I arrived, the entitled Karens come out and immediately start asking why I didn't bring 500 gallons and when am I gonna go get them some more. And this is all because apparently they had 18 people staying there and they all needed showers. It is a pretty big mountain home to their credit. She told me that they expect me to drive around around the clock, delivering water for their entire stay. By the way, if I can't fill at the bulk station and I can't use my full-size trailer, this will also turn into a giant pain in the neck. It takes 40 minutes to fill the tank at my house, 20 minutes to drive, and 40 minutes to transfer. 18 people consume a ton of water. For reference, if I had my truck and a full-size trailer, the whole process would only take about 30 minutes. And I'm honestly so blown away by their entitled behavior, as well as the things that they decided to say to me. Now, mind you, this is all because they wanted to stay in this house to have their ideal vacation. The entitled Karen then said it was my job to supply them with everything they needed for their vacation, or otherwise they would make sure that I got fired. Now, I was really friendly up until this point, but that really set my teeth on edge. She then said that I should ensure that my schedule was clear for the next week just so I could support them, and that I should go rent a truck to make sure that I could haul the water up to them. I honestly couldn't believe it. I was being a professional and friendly person who was just trying to help out, but after those remarks, I simply couldn't take it. So I decided to clarify with these entitled Karens about what I was and wasn't going to do. Also, their adult children were looking pretty ashamed at this point. I said that was not happening, as I do not work for the management company. I'm a third-party contractor who works on hot tubs. I was doing the property manager a favor by helping them out. The Karens then threatened to tell the property manager company to cancel my contract if I don't want to help them. And they implied that as someone delivering water for a business, they said that I would need the money. So when they said that, I told them, go ahead. My full-time job is in cloud technology, and this is a side business for me. I literally couldn't care less, and I was still not going to drive around the clock to do that when they could just move to another property. There was some back and forth, but I finally told them that they would be stupid to try and stay here, and that the experience they wanted to have in this house just wasn't going to happen. I then went home and had a couple of beers and enjoyed the rest of my Sunday. Apparently, the next morning they moved to another house, and also the property manager gave them a full refund so that their trip was completely free. Wow, those people were absolutely super entitled. They seriously expected you to work around the clock just to try and make them specifically happy? Like seriously, they are unbelievably entitled, and that is so inappropriate. Like in all honesty, you just don't treat people like that. You don't look at them and be like, wow, if you don't do this, I'm gonna get you fired. That is never gonna get anything accomplished, and if I was in this guy's shoes, I would have told him right then and there, no, I'm not doing it. Go ahead and try and get me fired. I'm not gonna be talked to like that. And this was all just because they weren't getting their way. This guy was being professional and very friendly. He was doing everything he could to help out this property manager as well as the client staying on his property. He wasn't malicious or in any way neglectful to what is going on, and he was literally doing the best he could with the stuff presented in front of him. So truly, these entitled Karens are absolute jerks. The way they talked to the original poster was so inappropriate, and I don't blame you for walking out and refusing to help these people. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled customer demands a cash refund from a gift card, but after explaining to her several times that it simply doesn't work that way, she refuses to take no for an answer, eventually resulting in me needing to call the police just to get her to leave our store. Here's what happened. I have seen a lot of crazy people, but this one was one of my favorites. I used to manage a popular sporting store, and one day a customer bought a tent. The cashier who sold it to her texted me the next night saying she was acting really sketchy and paid with a gift card from the same kind of tent she just returned. She would come back a few days later asking for a refund, which was like, sure, no big deal, I just need her receipt. But she doesn't have it. I asked for the credit card or the debit card, and after dodging the question several times, she admits she paid with a gift card. Again, no big deal. I can just put it back on the gift card itself. But this is where an all-out nightmare breaks loose. She starts raising her voice, saying this is the second tent she purchased from us that didn't work, and that because her son had football practice over the weekend, she had to purchase a third tent from another retailer, and she wanted me to cash out her purchase to make up for what she spent at the other store. I told her absolutely not. She gets mad and tries to do a third exchange. I told her that we can't do that either. She was obviously trying to receipt launder. She already bought 2 tents and returned them claiming that they were damaged, and now she's trying again, and every time she just loses her receipt because she's hoping the cashier doesn't notice and will give her cash or return to a credit card or something like that. Our system doesn't work that way, and after several exchanges, it will only offer her a gift card, and a manager override can't get past that. She tried everything everything. She blamed us for selling faulty tents. She blamed the cashier for not doing the first return right. She called corporate demanding that I get fired because I wouldn't honor a gift card cash value, while also claiming that I told her to leave the store at some point. Eventually, she refused to get out of line and started spewing nonsense about US law from the 1960s that apparently magically said that gift cards are legal tender, and I had to reimburse her for her troubles. I explained multiple times that no one forced her to purchase a third tent from another retailer, and that there was zero option for me to give her cash. She then, with a perfectly serious expression, asked me why I couldn't just pull some money out of the register and write it down that I refunded her, like on a piece of paper or something like that. I calmly told her that that was illegal. I would get fired and that she can't get cash for a gift card. I then said that unless she has any other business, we would like to take care of other customers. She refused to get out of line and started getting aggressive to us. So I called the cops right in front of her, and she would stay inside just a little bit longer until eventually she left absolutely fuming. Eventually, the cops show up and they made sure that she left the parking lot just so she couldn't bother us or the store any longer. She never did get a refund, but she did leave a really nice review saying I didn't know the laws of this country. And honestly, with all things considered, that is absolutely hilarious. Yeah, that lady was being really weird. Like, she was very obviously trying to get money out of this situation, and she just wasn't taking no for an answer. Like, seriously, it's time to like take a chill pill and just calm down. There's no reason to act like this. And I'm right there with the original poster. You could see literally right through this lady because you knew exactly what she was trying to do. She was trying to scam you guys out of your money. Even going as far as being like, wow, just pull it out of the cash register. It'll be fine. Like, what did she expect? For you to just write like an IOU down in the cash register and your store and managers would somehow think that's fine? Like, no, that's not allowed. That's very illegal and you're just gonna get in trouble. So good for you for standing up for yourself and not taking that for a second, because this customer was clearly trying to work the system. And if they had gotten their way, there's a very high likelihood that you would have been fired. Am I the jerk for confronting my sister-in-law after she tried to act like the mother of my child? Here's what happened. So I am in a complex situation that I never thought I would find myself in. My husband and I decided to pursue surrogacy as we are unable to conceive on our own due to medical reasons. His sister, let's call her Sarah, that's not her real name, is 45 years old and has graciously offered to be our surrogate, and we are overjoyed. She has 2 children of her own whose births went smoothly, so we thought it wouldn't be a burden on her body, and since she was healthy, we agreed to go further with the process. Fast forward to 6 months ago when our beautiful baby girl was born. We were beyond grateful to Sarah for her incredible gift to us, and that's when things really started to get tricky. Sarah seemed to become extremely possessive of the baby, acting like she was the mother. Whenever she would come over to our house, she insisted on being present for diaper changing, as well as feeding and nap time. At first, I had no problem with this, but I told her it would be better for her to rest, having just given birth recently, but she insisted on helping out. But then things started changing. She constantly started telling me how to take care of the baby, as she has a lot more experience than I do. She acts like she knows what's best for our child more than we do. She even started referring to the baby as her baby in front of our friends and family, all during family gatherings, and constantly reminds them that she birthed my baby and tells people about my fertility issues, saying how unfortunate it is. Now, naturally, this has caused tension between my husband and myself. I've attempted to talk to my husband about it, and while he acknowledges that her behavior can be overbearing, he didn't want to confront her because he's afraid it will strain their relationship. He thinks we owe her too much to criticize her actions. But despite this, I finally decided to have a conversation with Sarah about her behavior. I expressed my gratitude for her surrogacy, but explained that this was causing confusion and stress for our family. I tried to explain how her actions were making me feel overwhelmed and that I wanted to establish boundaries as it's my baby. She then became emotional and accused me of not being appreciative of everything that she has done for us, reminding me that she is the reason we have a child in the first place. She said I was not understanding the bond she had developed with the baby during the pregnancy. After the argument, I noticed how some of my husband's side of the family has started treating me differently, as well as looking at me differently. I feel so stressed out now, and honestly, I don't know what to do. I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think Sarah is having trouble adjusting to the reality of the situation, and she really needs a little bit of help. And I'm referring to like professional help of some kind. Like, seriously, this lady is not acting right in the head, and for her to basically imply, no, this is my baby, they just had me give birth to it because she can't have children. That, in my opinion, is really weird. Like, just look at the behavior behavior that she's been exhibiting, from the diaper changing to feeding and nap time, her just insisting to be there, that is honestly really weird. And for her to claim ownership over the baby in front of friends and family is completely over the line. I honestly don't blame you for confronting her. This behavior is incredibly inappropriate. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have picked somebody in the family to birth your child. I mean, that's a big mistake in my opinion. I would have found literally anybody else besides, your husband's sister. That's really weird in my opinion, and that is just a recipe for disaster. So overall, in my opinion, no, you are not the jerk. And I honestly think that Sarah's at fault in this situation. An entitled Karen demands to use my phone in the store that I work at. And when I say no, she straight up complains to the customer service desk, lying about how I was refusing her service. And I'm honestly so done with Karens like this. Here's what happened. So this happened some time ago, but the absolute audacity of the entire exchange has cemented the encounter into my core memories. I was working retail at the time when a woman comes up to me and asks to use my phone. At first, I didn't immediately think, oh my gosh, this is a Karen. I simply looked at her and in my best customer service voice, I said to her, I'm sorry ma'am, I can't let you use my phone, but you can use the phone at the customer service counter just over there. And I literally pointed at the counter 10 feet away. After this, she then morphs into the Karen. She looks at me and says, so you won't let me use your phone? I say to her again, I'm sorry ma'am, no. The customer service desk is over there. Now, I start to explain a little bit more, but she interrupts me before I can finish my sentence. She looks at me and says, you're refusing to help me? I say to her, no ma'am, I'm not. There is a phone at the customer service desk right there that you can use. When I repeatedly refused to give her my phone, she went over to the customer service desk, but she didn't make the call that she needed that was apparently so important that I had to surrender my phone to her just to get it done. Instead, I could hear her complaining about me and see her pointing in my direction, likely telling the story about how the big meanie associate blatantly refused to help a customer in need. But the complaint didn't go her way, and no one came over to reprimand me for my terrible customer service. The Karen walked out of the store, making sure to tell me in all her Karen displeasure, I hope one day you're stranded on the side of the road and no one helps you. So honestly, to that I say, have the day that you deserve, because at the end of the day, you're still just gonna be a Karen. Wow, that's an awful thing to say to somebody. Like, first off, if this really was an emergency, why did she not run over to the customer service desk? Like, if she's really trying to insinuate that she's in some kind of danger or some kind of like emergency situation, then she is clearly handling this really well. Like, I would be freaking out if I needed a phone desperately. I would go in whatever direction somebody pointed just so I could make a phone call. And then she goes around and says, I hope you get stranded on the side of the road and no one helps you. Like, okay, Karen, got it. So she not only demanded somebody's phone to make a phone call, but then she didn't even make the phone call after she didn't get her way the first time. Like, seriously, this lady is not that bright. So good for you for not handing over your phone. There's no way in the world I would have done that either, because this Karen very likely could have taken off with it and then you would have never seen it ever again. An entitled Karen hates the fact that I'm wearing a mask at the store I work in. So this lady decides to go crazy and starts coughing on literally everything. And I've never been more blown away by someone's stupidity in my life. Here's what happened. So I am a short female who works overnights at a gas station alone 3 to 5 nights out of the week. I wear a mask because, to be blunt, people absolutely stink. People stink of all kinds of things, and I'm oversensitive to any kind of sense. I've had homeless people come in, and clearly they have not bathed. Or some older people who smell like a brewery buying more cases of booze. And listen, I don't judge. They can buy their booze and lotto all they'd like. They come in with at least a decent attitude, and I'll return it. But thankfully, I have an awesome manager who knows I can and will throw a bad attitude back in the customer's face when it calls for it. And this night just so happened to be one such night. This was a couple of weeks back at this point, and I'll admit I'm still upset at this lady for doing this. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning when this skinny short lady comes in, and I noticed that she had hospital bands on her wrist. Now, this isn't that uncommon. There's one a few blocks away, so this station is likely on her way home. I have a pang of sympathy for her. She's likely exhausted and probably emotionally drained, so I'm expecting to hear her vent and let it go in one ear and out the other, as I've done a few dozen times at this point. Well, no. She notices my mask and begins asking me about it in a really nasty attitude. She says to me, "Why are you wearing a mask? You know those things don't work, right?" I immediately decided to just stonewall her, and dropping the customer service voice, I sternly said to her, "What I'm wearing isn't of your concern." And then I just go about the transaction, ignoring her remarks as well as a few of her insults. As I'm grabbing her cigarettes, I hear her cough. Now again, she has hospital bands on, so I didn't think anything of
of it at first. Clearly she's at least semi-sensible and is coughing away from me, right? Well, nope. She continues to cough, and as I glance over while I'm bagging her items, she is coughing on the card reader and the displays on the counter. She leans to the lotto scanner and coughs more. Now at this point, I'm getting mad, but I still remain silent. It's not until she's leaning over the counter nearly into my face to cough on the register and me that a switch just flips inside my brain. I grab the bottle of disinfectant and I just start spraying. I sprayed the counter, the card reader, her purse, the outside of the bag, and her items, and even her shirt. I was aware enough to not even risk spraying her face, but she was still coughing on literally everything. She moved to the newspaper rack, the drink cooler, even the door, looking like a toddler marking her territory. She ended it by grabbing a basket display of snacks and chocolate and flinging it across the floor while also saying, "Have fun cleaning that up, witch. Just wait till I tell your manager. I'm her friend, you know." Now, to admit it, I had been screaming at this point for this woman to get out of my store, and the entire time I was doing that, I was spraying things down as well as her. I was shaking mad, and I yelled back at her, "Do it, tell her. I'm gonna tell her myself after this," which is exactly what I did. I texted my manager immediately after she left. I cleaned up the display and wiped down everything she coughed on very carefully, as careful as I could. I had to take anti-anxiety medication just to take away the panic attack, which was slowly coming to the surface after the anger subsided. Jumping forward to the morning when my manager arrived, and I was expecting her to at least be upset as I told her everything that happened. I was certain I'd at least get written up, but instead, this woman hands me a coffee from Starbucks and says to me she was lucky I wasn't in here, and just left it right at that. I saw her days after and got the chance to point her out to the other staff, so now everybody knows that she made a biological attack, as we dubbed it, onto the store. I don't really know if she's ever been back after that though, since she hasn't come overnight ever again. Wow, that lady seriously has problems. She was running around the store trying to cough on everything. Like, this is just really weird behavior, and there's no reason to act like that. She's also trying to claim to be the manager's friend. Like, seriously, the manager needs new friends. Her friend is absolutely insane. She was coughing all over the place, all because the original poster was wearing a mask. Like, seriously, who does that? What grown adult would seriously start throwing things around and be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna tell your manager"? Like, lady, you're crazy. You need to get out of here. Those hospital bans were probably for the psychiatric ward. So truly good for you for standing up for yourself and refusing to take that for a second. If I was in your place, I would be furious with this lady. I would seriously be losing my mind at the way she was acting. But you handled this like a pro. You got aggressive when you needed to, and it really did make all the difference in getting this weird entitled Karen out the door. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius, and click the bell on all of us to make sure you don't miss out on a video. We love and appreciate you guys, and we will see you in the next video.